Chapter 9:32. When they entered the house, a table full of dishes had already been set up. As Chun Xiuming led Li Changsheng to their seats, the other people who accompanied them also sat down. Everyone looked at Li Changsheng curiously. A few people already knew about Li Changsheng and naturally felt that it was not strange for Chun Xiuming to set up such a formation. After all, if the Berserker's combat strength could really increase exponentially under Li Changsheng, then Li Changsheng would probably become the most popular person in Hua. Others who did not know about Li Changsheng's identity also understood that this young man probably had an extraordinary background. After leaving the compound, Yusha accompanied Li Changsheng to the training base. From the conversation at the table, Yusha finally learned that Li Changsheng was the new instructor of the Berserkers. This made her even more curious about Li Changsheng. Berserkers were all dragons and phoenixes among men. They were handpicked from thousands of people. Li Changsheng was so young, yet he was the instructor of the Berserkers and was valued so highly by Chun Xiuming. He must have some real ability. At this time, in the Berserker training base, General Du Shi, who was in charge of managing the Berserkers, was sitting in his office and watching the Berserkers' continuous training on the monitor. Where did that instructor go? I've been waiting since morning, but he still hasn't appeared. He's really arrogant. I want to see what kind of person he is to be personally appointed by Chun Xiuming. Outside the training base, the Berserkers were sweating profusely. After the Spirit Chi awakening, they had become stronger due to the mutation of their physique and were selected to join the Berserkers. However, they still needed to continue training to better use their strength. Okay, everyone, take a break first. A team leader in charge of supervising their training said, "Our new instructor will be coming later. Remember to line up and welcome him. By the way, Captain, who is the new instructor? None of us are newbies. Every one of us has been through hundreds of battles. Looking at the entire Berserker system, there are only a few who are qualified to be our instructors. I wonder which one of them it is. It's a guy named Li Changsheng. I don't know where he came from, but I heard that General Chun Xiuming personally selected him for us." Li Changsheng? Who is he? Everyone was confused. Only one of them trembled, and a complicated expression appeared on his face. "Hey, what's wrong with you? Do you know this Li Changsheng?" "I do know him. He's a junior in my Baihong Martial Arts Club." "What? Your junior brother is here to be our instructor?" Hearing these words, the crowd immediately went into an uproar. "Are you kidding me? Is this Chun Xiuming playing with us? Could it be that the children of some big shot are here to gild their names? But gilded should go somewhere else. Isn't it a bit too much for him to be our Berserker's instructor?" Zheng Rang deliberately didn't mention Li Changsheng's strength, thinking that he couldn't let Li Changsheng be too comfortable as an instructor. He knew that Berserkers were all prideful and arrogant. Sure enough, he managed to achieve his goal with just a few words. "Humph! Li Changsheng, you humiliated me. I won't let you have it easy." Zheng Rang thought silently. At this moment, an army green off-road vehicle drove in. Could it be that the instructor is here? Let's go and take a look. The Berserkers' members gathered around. When the door opened and Li Changsheng walked out, Zheng Rang's pupils shrank. "I'm talking about him. Damn, he's so young. Are you kidding me? Chun Xiuming is really too much this time." In the command room, Du Shi looked at the computer screen and suddenly frowned. He looked at the assistant next to him and said, "This is the new instructor?" The assistant nodded. "He's accompanied by Yu Sha personally. He should be the new instructor. Do you think this kid is really capable?" Du Shi asked. The assistant shook his head and said, "I'm not sure about this, but I think someone will verify it for us." At this moment, Li Changsheng looked at the Berserkers' members who were looking at him with unfriendly eyes. There was some confusion in his eyes. When he saw Zheng Rang standing in the crowd, he seemed to have thought of something. Yusha looked at these Berserkers who were surrounding and not giving way. She was about to speak. Li Changsheng stopped her from speaking. Instead, he glanced at everyone present. "I'm your new instructor. It seems that you're not convinced. But it's useless to be convinced. In my eyes, you're a bunch of trash." Li Changsheng's words immediately stirred up 1,000 waves. The Berserkers' faces were filled with anger. "Why do you have to call us trash? If you have the ability, fight with me. A berserker said loudly. Fight with me? You're not worthy. Li Changxing looked at Yusha and said, Please drive the car further away. Although Yusha was puzzled, she still nodded. When she got in the car and drove 300 meters away, Li Changxing's lips curled into a sneer. He pointed his finger at the more than 50 berserkers present one by one. In order to prove that I'm qualified to be your instructor and to convince you trash, I'll show you what true strength is. As soon as he finished speaking, before the berserkers could react, he raised his fist and punched the ground. Boom! When the punch landed, the ground trembled violently. Then, more than 50 berserkers were instantly sent flying by the force of the punch. Each of them flew more than 10 meters and then fell down like dumplings. They were all dizzy from the fall. Yusha, who had just gotten out of the car, lost her balance and almost fell to the ground. She looked at the scene in shock. She knew that Li Changsheng could make Chen Xueming so solemnly and respectfully invite him here. It meant that he was really capable. But she never expected that Li Changsheng would take down more than 50 berserkers with just one punch. In the command room, Du Shi, who was waiting to watch a good show, suddenly stood up in shock and stared at the screen. His eyes were filled with disbelief. The assistant next to him also stuttered, This guy is too scary, isn't he? On the training ground, Li Changsheng looked at the berserkers who were struggling to get up from the ground and asked loudly, Who's still not convinced now? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, more than 50 people lowered their heads at the same time. What else could they say? He could send them flying with just one punch. If he hit them, they would be dead. They were sincerely convinced by such an instructor. Since you're all convinced, then listen to my orders now. Assemble. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 50 berserkers stood neatly in a few rows. One by one, they looked at Li Changsheng with reverence. The army was originally the world of tough men. They worshipped strength and the strong. I'm too lazy to lecture you. In my eyes, you're too weak. Now, I want each of you to do 10,000 push-ups first. Aren't you berserkers very strong? I think these little push-ups won't be difficult for you. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the captain couldn't help but ask, Instructor, can doing push-ups also improve our strength? After the spirit chi revival, we rely on absorbing spirit chi to strengthen our physique. Although these push-ups can train our muscles, it doesn't seem to help much in strengthening our strength. Hearing the captain's words, Li Changsheng nodded. Yes, these push-ups really don't help you, but you dare to question me just now. This is just a small punishment for you. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the captain didn't dare to speak again. He could also see that this new instructor seemed to be quite vengeful. Chapter 9:33. So, Instructor Li is already here. I took a nap inside just now. Sorry for not coming out to meet you. Du Shi came out of the command room and extended his hand to Li Changsheng with a smile. It's okay, you're welcome, Li Changsheng said lightly. How could the slightest movement of the grass in this small base escape from his divine sense? This Du, she had been staring at him in front of the computer. That punch just now had the intention of intimidating him. Instructor Li, please come in and have a drink. Your room has been arranged. Li Changsheng followed him into the room. This Du, she looked very enthusiastic. By the way, Instructor Li, this time General Chen Xueming personally appointed the warriors. Do you have any good methods for training the berserkers? This Du, she was actually the previous instructor of the berserkers. In his opinion, the berserkers' combat strength had reached the limit. If they wanted to improve further, it would depend on each person's talent. After all, the berserkers were different from ordinary warriors. Their physique had mutated after the spirit chi revival. Their bodies had absorbed spirit chi, which made them stronger than ordinary people. In fact, they had more aptitude for cultivation than ordinary people. In Du Shi's opinion, whether the berserkers could continue to improve their strength was no longer the problem of the instructor, but their own aptitude. If an immortal cultivator's aptitude was not enough, even the best teacher would be useless. Therefore, even though he had seen Li Changsheng's strength, he still did not think that Li Changsheng could really double the combat strength of these berserkers. I don't have a good method, but I can teach them some body forging techniques and how to better use the strength in their bodies. It should not be a problem to triple their combat strength within a month. Moreover, my method can be spread throughout the army. It's fast and practical, Li Changsheng said casually. Du Shi's mouth was wide open. If their strength was tripled, didn't that mean that these berserkers' strength would be on par with his current strength? How is this possible? This kid can't be bragging, right? Sure enough, he's too young to do things properly. He's too arrogant because he has great strength at such a young age. Next, Yusha led Li Changsheng to the arranged dormitory. It was similar to an apartment, but it had all the necessary things. Yusha didn't leave. According to Chun Xueming's instructions, she stayed behind to take care of Li Changsheng's daily needs. One had to know that Yusha's position wasn't low. She was equivalent to Chun Xueming's secretary. For her to be in charge of serving Li Changsheng, one could see how much importance Chun Xueming placed on Li Changsheng. The next day, training officially began. Just when the berserkers thought that this petty instructor would definitely think of a way to deal with them, they discovered that Li Changsheng did not do so. Instead, he carefully taught them a set of body tempering techniques. This was a method used in ancient times to train the undead soldiers. It was a very brilliant method. After using this method to train the undead soldiers to a high level, they would not be afraid of swords and spears. They would have infinite strength and could even carry mountains and chase the moon. Of course, Li Changsheng only took out the basic part of training the undead soldiers. Even so, one could imagine how many experts could be created when this method was popularized throughout the army. It could be said that Li Changsheng really put in a lot of effort this time. In addition to teaching them the body tempering techniques to train the undead soldiers, Li Changsheng also taught them a set of martial arts that could maximize the power in the body. In fact, the martial arts alone could allow them to exert 3 times their combat strength. After adding the body tempering techniques, their strength would increase by more than 10 times. However, in a month's time, the body tempering techniques couldn't even reach a small level. But Li Changsheng said that 3 times was too conservative. 5 times the combat strength should not be a problem. The berserkers trained every day, while Du Shi just sat aside and watched. Yusha also stood aside and sighed. I really envy these berserkers for having strength that ordinary people don't have. It's a pity that I don't have the talent for cultivation. Otherwise, I would also want to join them. By the way, Du Shi, I see that Instructor Li's training methods are very different from your previous training methods. Can it really triple the combat strength of the berserkers, as he said? Du Shi smiled when he heard this. Instructor Li was personally appointed by Chun Xueming, so I dare not comment too much. But as a former instructor, I deeply understand how difficult it is for the berserkers to improve their strength. Triple the combat strength, is that so? I thought it could really triple the combat strength in a month. If this method can really be promoted, it will be a great thing. It seemed that I was thinking too much. After Li Changsheng taught the body tempering techniques and martial arts to the students, he let them train on their own while he made a wrought tan chair and lay under it to bask in the sun every day. Finally, one day after half a month, Du Shi couldn't help but say to the berserkers, "You have also been training for such a long time." Instructor Li said that it can triple your strength. You can at least increase it by 1.5 a month. 5 times, right? I wonder who wants to let me test it? If Du Shi made such a request in the past, this group of berserkers would definitely refuse, because Du Shi was a former instructor with terrifying strength. They could only be abused. But after Du Shi made this request today, in the next moment, many people immediately raised their hands eagerly. Seeing this scene, Du Shi was shocked. You guys dare to fight me after training for half a month? Do you really think that Instructor Li taught you immortal techniques? Don't cry when I beat you later. As he spoke, he took a step forward. 3 of you. It will be more interesting to fight like this. Instructor Du, are you sure? A berserker looked a little playful. Of course I'm sure. Then don't say that we bullied you. As they spoke, the 3 of them walked over with a smirk on their faces. When Du Shi was their instructor, he taught them a lot. But Du Shi was too strong, so they couldn't do anything about it. Today, they finally found a chance to take revenge. Come on, make your move. Don't dilly-dally like a girl, Du Shi said loudly. Okay, Instructor Du, the berserker took a step forward and punched Du Shi as if he was flying. When the other party punched, the expression on Du Shi's face changed. He thought to himself, when did he become so powerful? When their fists collided, Du Shi was forced to take 3 steps back. Du Shi's face had completely turned ugly. In just half a month, the other party's strength seemed to be stronger than his. The next moment, the other 2 berserkers rushed up. Du Shi immediately complained incessantly. He already felt very tired when facing one person. When the 3 of them attacked together, he was beaten back. He only lasted a few moves before he fell to the ground. Seeing that the 3 of them were going to continue, he hurriedly waved his hand to stop them. "Stop! I lost." After speaking, Du Shi didn't show any frustration on his face. Instead, he strode toward Li Changsheng. He walked in front of Li Changsheng and saluted. "Instructor Li, I beg you, please let me join the training." Du Shi was completely convinced. Chapter 9:34. After that, even Du Shi joined the training of the berserkers. Like ordinary warriors, he learned martial arts and practiced body-forging techniques every day. A month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Sung Rang walked up to Li Changsheng and bowed deeply to him. "Instructor Li, I was too narrow-minded before. I apologize to you." Sung Rang originally thought that Li Changsheng would make things difficult for him as an instructor, so he was hostile to Li Changsheng in his heart. However, he didn't expect that Li Changsheng would treat him like the other trainees this month. This surprised him and made him feel guilty at the same time. That was why he was like this now. "It's okay. Just practice well," Li Changsheng said. In fact, with Li Changsheng's status, there was no need for him to care about a small fry like him. "After 3 more days of training, you can graduate. At that time, I will lead you to Dianan to suppress evil," Li Changsheng said loudly. Every berserker's eyes shone with a bloodthirsty glint, like a hungry wolf. In the past month, their combat strength had soared rapidly. They couldn't help but want to use a satisfying actual combat to verify the results of their training. "I want to go too." At this time, Du Shi spoke. He was different from ordinary berserkers. As a senior general, he was not allowed to go to the battlefield in person without orders from his superiors. "Okay." Li Changsheng nodded happily. "Instructor Li, isn't this a little inappropriate?" After a month of getting along with Li Changsheng, Yusha was very familiar with him. She couldn't help but remind him. "It's okay. I'll talk to Chen Xiuming." Yusha nodded, thinking of how much Chen Xiuming valued Li Changsheng. Chen Xiuming should agree to such a small matter. "Well, today's training is over. We won't go home until we're drunk tonight," Li Changsheng said loudly. The training was coming to an end. He had taught these people what he needed to teach. As for how far they could grow in the future, it would depend on their personal aptitude. Today, he naturally had to relax. After Du Shi finished training, he changed into casual clothes and returned to the headquarters. In addition to his daily training, he had many other things to deal with. Just as he entered the club, his phone rang. "What? There are people from Enweed faction active in this area?" Du Shi hung up the phone and walked out. He looked at Li Changsheng and said, "Instructor Li, I just received news from the higher-ups that a devil sect called the Een Sunflower Sect is heading straight for our training base. One of our berserkers killed the son of their sect master, so they came to take revenge. How bold of them." Li Changsheng sneered. "The higher-ups are asking if we need any help, but because the place where we are training is rather remote, even if the higher-ups send help, I'm afraid it will be too late. It's fine. It's a good opportunity to verify the results of this month's training." Li Changsheng's lips curled into a smile. Then, he blew a whistle and gathered the 50 or so berserkers. "Instructor, I heard that the demon sect is coming to attack us." "That's great," Zheng Rang said excitedly. If they encountered the demon sect in the past, they would only be facing a formidable enemy. But now that their strength had skyrocketed, their confidence had also swelled. According to the news from the higher-ups, the Een Sunflower Sect has sent hundreds of people. It's up to you when the time comes. As soon as Li Changsheng's voice fell, the alarm of the base suddenly rang. Then, a black shadow rushed out of the woods. The leader was an old man, followed by a young man and a young woman. A member of the berserkers killed my son. Today I will wash the training base with blood. The old man said in a gloomy voice. Wash the blood. Wash the blood. The people in black behind shouted in unison. Master, why do I feel that these people are not panicking at all when they see us? The young woman in black said in a low voice. I'm afraid they've been scared silly. A young man licked his lips and pulled out a scimitar in his hand. The scimitar was blood-colored and gave off a somewhat strange feeling. Kill, the old man ordered. A dense crowd of people rushed over to the berserkers. The berserkers were motionless and stood straight like javelins. They were waiting for Li Changsheng's order. But Li Changsheng sat on a chair next to him and said coldly, This is a good opportunity to fight. What are you waiting for? As soon as his voice fell, the berserkers, who were already impatient to begin with, rushed forward without hesitation. Bang! Sung Rang took the lead and directly smashed a disciple of the Yin Sunflower sect with a punch, completely opening the curtains. The two sides were tangled together. Although there were more than 500 people on the Yin Sunflower sect side, facing more than 50 berserkers, they could not gain the upper hand at all. Moreover, their disciples were constantly falling. On the other hand, only a few people on the berserker side were slightly injured. How can their strength be so strong? The old man's face was already showing surprise, which soon turned into shock. Because except for a little advantage in the beginning because of the number of people, it was almost a one-sided situation. More than 200 of the 500 people fell in the blink of an eye, leaving only 300 people who were beaten back. This was simply an incredible phenomenon. What should we do? The man with the scimitar couldn't help but look at the old man. It seems that our intelligence was wrong. The berserkers are many times stronger than we expected. With that, he couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng, who was sitting there and watching the show. If this goes on, I'm afraid we'll be defeated. That young man should have a high position. From the beginning to the end, he just sat there and watched the show without joining the battle. To catch bandits, first catch the leader. Let's take him down first. After the old man finished speaking, the man next to him immediately asked, Let me go take him down. Good. Remember, don't kill him. You must catch him alive. Understood. The man licked his lips. Then his body turned into an afterimage and rushed toward Li Changsheng. At the same time, the woman next to him followed closely behind to help cover him. In their minds, Li Changsheng must be a leader, and someone would definitely stop him if he rushed over. But to their surprise, the berserkers didn't care about Li Changsheng from beginning to end. Could it be that I guessed wrong? He's just an ordinary warrior? Just as the old man was feeling surprised, the young man with the scimitar rushed to Li Changsheng's side and raised the scimitar in his hand to directly slash at Li Changsheng. Because he was afraid of killing Li Changsheng, he aimed at Li Changsheng's arm. Seeing that the scimitar was about to fall, Li Changsheng was still sitting there in a daze. The young man couldn't help but show some pity in his eyes. If this scimitar fell, he could imagine that his entire arm would be cut off. And the woman stood there on guard, afraid that others would come to rescue her. It seems that he's not an important person, then it should be that woman. At this time, even she joined the battle. And Yu Sha, who was standing there, was a bit of a crane in a flock of chickens. Just as the old man was about to let his disciple deal with Li Changsheng first and capture Yu Sha, he heard a loud bang. The scimitar in the young man's hand directly flew out. In the next moment, Li Changsheng grabbed him by the throat. Your swordsmanship is too inferior. Li Changsheng's voice was full of ridicule. The old man and the woman were dumbfounded. They never thought that this would be the result. Chapter 9:35. The black-clothed youth in the field was lifted up by Li Changsheng by his throat. He struggled with all his strength, but to his horror, he found that his true essence was confined and couldn't be used at all. As Li Changsheng's palm kept tightening, a suffocating feeling came over him. He felt like he was going to die at any time. His eyes bulged out, his cheeks turned red, and he couldn't say a word. His junior sister hurriedly pulled out her sword and rushed towards Li Changsheng. The sword light was like a dragon as it directly attacked Li Changsheng's throat. But in the next moment, Li Changsheng stretched out his fingers and easily caught the sharp sword between his fingers. No matter how hard the woman tried, the sword couldn't move even half an inch. It was as if it grew between Li Changsheng's fingers. She tried to pull it out, but couldn't. Seeing this scene, even the face of the sect master of the Dark Sunflower sect, the old man Lei Hong, completely changed. He was very clear about the strength of his two disciples. They were definitely experts among the younger generation in the entire cultivation world. But now, the two of them attacked with all their strength. Yet Li Changsheng easily blocked them. No wonder this person was watching the show from the sidelines. It turns out that he's a super expert. The face of the sect master of the Dark Sunflower sect, Lei Hong, changed. He immediately strode towards Li Changsheng. Several berserkers at the side hurriedly came forward to block him, but before they could get close to him, they were sent flying with a wave of his sleeve. Lei Hong was a Vajra realm expert. Although the berserkers had cultivated for a month and their strength had advanced by leaps and bounds, there was still a big gap between them and such a big figure of the Devil Dao. It was no exaggeration to say that Lei Hong alone could wipe out all the berserkers. This was also the reason why he dared to come here, to avenge his disciples. If they hadn't encountered Li Changsheng, perhaps the berserkers would have been completely wiped out. He stood 10 steps away from Li Changsheng and stopped. He coldly looked at Li Changsheng and said, "Friend, my two disciples are not as skilled as others. As their master, I apologize to you on behalf of them. Please be magnanimous and let them go. Do me a favor, and I'll leave with them immediately. What do you think?" In Lei Hong's opinion, it was already very rare for him, the dignified sect leader of Enweed faction, to be willing to say such words. Although Li Changsheng was strong, Li Changsheng was not weak either. If Li Changsheng was sensible, he would have stopped in time. But who would have thought that Li Changsheng would directly snap that black-clothed man's neck with a crack? He loosened his grip, and the black-clothed man fell to the ground, spitting out blood. He was no longer breathing. The woman's face turned pale with fright. Li Changsheng exerted force with his fingers, and the thin sword immediately broke inch by inch. The woman was also directly sent flying by the powerful force, landing more than 10 meters away. Although she did not die, she was only left with half a life. The old man's face instantly turned extremely ugly. By doing this, Li Changsheng had shed all pretense of cordiality without any hesitation. He would not rest until one of them was dead, and there was no room for negotiation. "Kid, you're going too far," Lei Hong shouted furiously. At the same time, his body turned into an afterimage as he suddenly rushed towards Li Changsheng. As a Vajra realm martial expert, Lei Hong's strength was naturally not to be underestimated. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble, and the rocks under his feet were crushed into powder. He carried a terrifying aura. Boom! Rumble! When he was close to Li Changsheng, he threw out a punch. The sound of thunder echoed in the void, and even the air in front of him was compressed. It whistled towards Li Changsheng's head. This punch was powerful enough to destroy a tank. However, when his fist was close to Li Changsheng gently raised his hand and grabbed that steel-like fist. He then shook it with all his might. Lei Hong's arm instantly twisted, and he took 8 steps back. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Li Changsheng with eyes filled with fear. How is this possible? Lei Hong was very confident in his own strength, but just now, Li Changsheng didn't even use a bit of Jin Yuan, and so easily blocked his attack. Furthermore, he understood that his arm was twisted not because of Li Changsheng's strength, but because of the rebounding force from his attack. When did the officials have such a terrifying person? Lei Hong stared at Li Changsheng with a deadly gaze, and his heart was in a perilous situation. However, Li Changsheng just smiled in disdain. "Do you still want to come?" In the next second, Lei Hong turned and fled without hesitation. As for his disciple and the group of disciples, he completely ignored them. As the saying went, a defeated army was like a landslide. Seeing that even the sect master had fled, The remaining 200 disciples instantly lost the courage to continue fighting. They all turned and fled. In the end, under the pursuit of the berserkers, more than 50 were captured. As for Lei Hong's female disciple, no one knew when she had quietly escaped. Li Changsheng was too lazy to chase after her. It seems that I won't be able to drink the wine today. Looking at the captives, Li Changsheng shook his head. The members of the berserkers needed to guard these captives until the higher-ups came to take them away. This could be considered a great merit. The Dark Sunflower sect was not a small force in the demon sect. They were unlucky to have met Li Changsheng. Otherwise, ordinary berserkers would not be able to take them down. The next day, Chen Xueming personally led people to take away the captives and handed a small book to Li Changsheng. The chief instructor of the berserkers was of the same rank as Chen Xueming. When Yu Sha and Du Shi saw Li Changsheng's rank, both of them were surprised. Before, they had guessed that Li Changsheng's position must not be low since Du Xueming had taken a fancy to him, but they did not expect it to be so high. Although Li Changsheng did not have any real power, with his small book, he would receive the highest level of treatment no matter where he went in the land of Dehua. It's a pity that Lei Hong escaped. Chen Xueming sighed. If Lei Hong had been captured, the berserkers would have made a great contribution. He could also take the opportunity to fight for some real power for Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng had no intention of pursuing an official career and did not care about this. Otherwise, if he wanted to, Lei Hong and his female disciple would not have been able to escape. General Chen, I plan to take the berserkers to Dianan to help Yi Shuang suppress the evil. It can also be considered as verifying the results of their training. What do you think? Li Changsheng looked at Chen Xueming. Of course, this is what I have promised Mr. Li before. I want Du Shi to go with me. Hearing this, Du Shi next to him was already nervous. That's not a problem. Chen Xueming was in a good mood. He had already heard about the berserkers. Originally, he was somewhat skeptical about Li Changsheng's claim that the berserkers' combat strength would soar in a month. But now, Li Changsheng gave him a perfect answer with facts. I wonder when you want to take them to Dianan? Now, the Dianan Demon Gate is ready to make a move. I don't know what big move they are brewing. Yi Shuang is also a little injured. What? Yi Shuang is injured? Li Changsheng's eyes were a little fierce. At this moment, Chen Xueming felt a little scared. Only then did he know that this young man usually looked very easy to talk to, but once he was angry, he would be an angry Buddha. No one could withstand his anger. Chapter 9:36. After Chen Xueming left, the members of the berserkers officially headed to Dianan. However, Li Changsheng did not set off with them. Instead, he returned to the capital with Chen Xueming to bid farewell to Yu Wei. When they arrived at the laboratory of Chao Shengxiao Biotechnology, Yu Wei was busy. When she saw Li Changsheng, her face suddenly showed some excitement. How's the research going recently? Li Changsheng asked casually. Teacher and the others are breaking down the structure of the drop of blood and have made some progress. I believe that within a year, it should be available. At that time, even ordinary people will have the power to protect themselves. Speaking of this, Yu Wei was slightly excited. Li Changsheng brought Yu Wei out, then handed a bottle of elixirs to Yu Wei and said, "These elixirs also have the effect of prolonging life. Take one every 6 months, and each elixir can increase your lifespan by 10 years. And this jade pendant, I specially refined it for you. When you encounter danger, it will automatically protect you. Even a finger-profound realm expert can't hurt you. I'm at a very far place. It may take decades. You must wait for me to come back." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yu Wei's eyes turned red. She knew that after today's parting, they would never meet again. She threw herself into Li Changsheng's arms and cried. After comforting Yu Wei with great difficulty, Li Changsheng got on the train to Dianan. Originally, Chen Xueming wanted to send a special plane to pick him up, but Li Changsheng wanted to see more of the scenery on Earth. After all, this was his hometown. It would be difficult to see it again after leaving. Chen Xueming naturally had no objection to Li Changsheng's choice. He personally sent someone to send Li Changsheng to the train station. An entire private room was dedicated to Li Changsheng. For many people, this was a long and torturous journey. However, for Li Changsheng, he was enjoying the scenery of the journey. After walking for a day, they finally arrived at Dianan. When Li Changsheng got off the train, the local staff in charge of reception immediately came forward to greet him and let him stay in a special guest house. Li Changsheng found that the spirit qi in Dianan was much denser than in the capital. The next day, the leader in charge of receiving Li Changsheng wanted to send him to where the berserker was. However, Li Changsheng gave Yishuang a call in advance. He heard that Yishuang was going to participate in a Dao sect conference and join forces with the local cultivation sects to deal with the demon sect. Thus, he politely declined the leader's kind intentions and took a car to the location of the conference. After sitting on the bus, Li Changsheng was surprised to find that all the passengers on the bus were cultivators, including an old man in a tang suit who had a rather high status. After the people on the carriage got on, they went over and saluted the old man. Beside the old man was a beautiful woman who was curiously sizing up Li Changsheng. It was because Li Changsheng was the only one who ignored the old man after getting on the bus. This young man is really rude. Grandpa has such a high status in the cultivation world, but he didn't even come over to say hello. The woman pouted and said, "Little Yin, Grandpa is just a little famous in the local area. My seniority is relatively high, so everyone is willing to give me face. However, it's only limited to the local area. The entire cultivation world is full of experts, and there are many seniors who I have to greet when I see them. Don't think that you're superior just because of my status." Hearing the old man's words, the woman stuck out her tongue. "Got it. Grandpa, you're starting to preach to me again. You." At this time, the bus gradually filled up and began to set off. Li Changsheng leaned against the window and looked at the scenery outside. Suddenly, the bus came to a stop. "What's going on?" Everyone looked at the driver. The driver's face turned pale. There seems to be people from the demon sect in front. The demon sect was rampant in Dianan, and these ordinary people also knew some things about the cultivation world. People from the demon sect? The old man stood up. Because his seniority was relatively high, everyone present regarded him as the backbone of the group. The old man walked to the front of the window and looked down, only to see a dense group of demon sect disciples blocking the road. They were led by a few people dressed in black robes and holding scimitars in their hands. "It's over. The people from the demon sect must know that we're going to participate in the Dao sect meeting, so they're stopping us midway. The people leading them are probably Khanate realm experts. We're no match for them at all." On the bus, the old man was the only one who was close to the peak of the Khanate realm. Most of the others were not at high level. They were all local cultivation forces in Dianan, and they were going to participate in the Dao sect meeting. However, they did not expect to be targeted by the demon sect. "Grandpa, what should we do?" The people from the demon sect are extremely ferocious. If we fall into their hands, I'm afraid we won't have a good ending," the woman said anxiously. "What's there to be afraid of? At most, we'll fight it out with them." Just as the bus was in a mess, the people from the demon sect outside had already walked over. They knocked on the window and shouted, "Get out of the bus. Hurry up if you don't want to die." The old man sighed and led everyone out of the carriage in a single file. Li Changsheng sat there and could not help but frown. He was going to the Dao sect meeting to see Yishuang. When he heard that Yishuang was injured, he had been worried about her. However, he had encountered such a situation on the way. When Li Changsheng saw that everyone had gotten out of the bus, he stood up and walked down as well. However, just as he reached the door, he saw the driver walking down in fear. The demon sect disciple in front grabbed the driver's collar and pulled him down. Then he slapped him 5 times. "What the F***CK are you dawdling for? If you dawdle any longer, I'll cut you into pieces." The driver was so frightened that he begged for mercy immediately. That devil sect disciple kicked his body and kicked him to the side. Only then did he stop. At that moment, he turned around and saw Li Changsheng. He glared at him. "You dawdle even more than the driver. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I said just now?" As he spoke, He reached out to grab Li Changxing's collar. Clearly, he wanted to teach Li Changxing a lesson like how he taught the driver a lesson. However, just as he reached out, Li Changxing grabbed him. Then, with a crack, his wrist was broken by Li Changxing. Ah! The demon sect disciple screamed in agony. How dare you attack me? You're courting death. As he spoke, he pulled out his scimitar and slashed at Li Changxing. However, in the next second, Li Changxing suddenly kicked out and landed a kick on the other party's lower abdomen. The kick sent the demon sect disciple flying 5 to 6 meters away, and he spat out blood. At that moment, everyone's attention was attracted by Li Changxing. A few demon sect disciples even rushed forward and surrounded Li Changxing. When the old man saw that, he could not help but sigh. His granddaughter asked, "Grandfather, what should we do? What else can we do?" Originally, I wanted to discuss with these people and say a few good words to get them to let us go. After all, these demon sect people are after money. I still have some spirit stones with me. But if he attacks, I'm afraid that he will completely anger these people. When that time comes, we can only fight our way out. It's just that they have more people and we have fewer people. I'm afraid that not many of us can get out alive. Hearing the old man's words, the woman could not help but snort coldly. This kid is really a hothead. It's fine if he doesn't care about his own life, but he even harmed others. Chapter 9:37. Take him down for me first. One of the leading young men said loudly. A group of devil sect disciples rushed toward Li Changxing, but before they could get close, they were all sent flying by Li Changxing's palm. I didn't expect him to be an expert. The leading young man took a step forward and was ready to take action himself. Alas, the old man and the others were still sighing. Although Li Changxing had sent several people flying with a palm, they were just ordinary devil sect disciples and were nothing. They could also do the same. They didn't think that Li Changxing could escape under the heavy encirclement of the devil sect. At this time, another group of people suddenly appeared. Senior Brother Lu of the Yin Sunflower sect is here. The Yin Sunflower sect was a big sect in southern Yunnan. As soon as they heard that the Yin Sunflower sect's people had come, those devil sect people were not in a hurry to deal with Li Changxing, but hurriedly greeted them. The old man, who was ready to kill his way out at any time, suddenly showed a bit of despair on his face when he heard the words Yin Sunflower sect. "Grandpa, what should we do?" The woman was also a bit panicked. The old man lowered his voice and said, "The Yin Sunflower sect's people are here. I'm afraid we can't take care of others. Wait for a while and follow Grandpa closely. Grandpa can only protect you and leave. The others can only resign themselves to fate." At this time, the Yin Sunflower sect's senior brother Lu had come over. "What's going on? I seem to hear a fight here. Is someone resisting?" "Senior brother Lu, there's a young man who is acting recklessly and dares to fight. I'm about to take him down. Don't waste time." This time, the officials in Dao sect have joined forces to deal with our southern Yunnan devil sect. We must not let them succeed. My master can't personally command some things, so the Yin Sunflower sect's affairs have been fully entrusted to me. After senior brother Lu finished speaking, he walked toward Li Changxing. I like to see what kind of young man he is. He dares to fight back? When he came over and saw Li Changxing, a bit of contempt appeared in his eyes. This guy seems to have a mediocre cultivation. Hurry up and take him down. It's good to kill one as an example, lest some reckless people dare to resist. The senior brother Lu just casually glanced at Li Changxing and was about to leave. "Wait a minute. Are you from the Dark Sunflower sect?" Li Changxing suddenly spoke. "What? Are you scared after hearing the name of my Dark Sunflower sect? You want to beg for mercy?" "Unfortunately, it's useless. I was ordered by my master to ambush the members of the Dao sect. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourselves for foolishly insisting on participating in the Dao sect's conference. All of you brought this upon yourselves. No, I just want to say that I still have things to do. I hope you won't waste my time. I don't want to kill people. What did you say?" When senior brother Lu heard this, he was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. "Kid, do you think I'm scared?" A cold light flashed in senior brother Lu's eyes. "I don't know if you're scared or not, but if you don't want to end up like your eldest senior brother, then consider my words carefully." Upon hearing Li Changxing's words, the expression on senior brother Lu's face froze. The news of their eldest senior brother being killed and the sect leader and eldest senior sister being seriously injured was only known to the disciples of the sect. It was not spread out at all, so how did the other party know? According to the sect leader, they were injured by a mysterious young man. Could it be this young man in front of us? Senior brother Lu was bewildered. "I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it. After 10 seconds, I'll make my move." Li Changsheng began to count. 10, 9, 8, 7. "Grandpa, what is this young man doing?" "He's actually threatening the members of the Yin Sunflower sect. The disciples of the Yin Sunflower sect have the most violent temperament because of the cultivation method they cultivate. He's angering them." The old man could not help but sigh as he secretly circulated the true qi in his body. As long as the members of the Yin Sunflower sect made a move, he would lead his granddaughter to kill them. The others also looked at the scene with a nervous expression. Encountering so many Devil Sect disciples, each of them was prepared to be killed. However, when Li Changsheng was about to count to 1, senior brother Lu let out a sigh. Finally, that senior brother Lu let out a long sigh, cupped his hands towards Li Changsheng, and said, "Sorry for the offense." Then, he ordered the Devil Sect disciples, "Let these people go. We'll retreat." "Why?" one of the young men wanted to ask. Senior brother Lu glared at him. "No reason. Now you're under the jurisdiction of my Yin Sunflower sect. Just listen to my orders." In the end, the group of Devil Sect disciples retreated like a tide. However, these people from the local cultivation forces in Dianan were all surprised. "Well, let's keep driving." Then, everyone sat back in the car. This time, the old man took the initiative to walk to Li Changxing's side. "Hello, I'm Lu Yuanming. This is my granddaughter Lu Yan. May I know which sect you're from, little friend?" "I'm not from any sect. I'm just an idler," Li Changsheng casually said. "An idler?" The old man frowned. As far as he knew, a devil sect like the Yin Sunflower sect was incomparably ferocious. If Li Changsheng did not mention the powerful force behind him, how could they be scared away? However, the old man did not ask more and talked to Li Changsheng about some matters of cultivation. The old man's granddaughter, Lu Yan, looked at Li Changsheng with great dissatisfaction. Her grandfather still had a certain reputation in the cultivation world of Dianan. In her opinion, Li Changsheng was just a junior and should be more respectful to her grandfather. However, Li Changsheng acted very casually, which made her quite unhappy. Didn't this guy use some unknown method to scare away senior brother Lu of the Yin Sunflower sect? What's there to be proud of? Lu Yan thought to herself indignantly. "Little friend, are you also going to participate in the Dao Sect conference this time?" The old man, Lu Yuanming, asked tentatively. "Yes. My girlfriend suffered some injuries in the fight with the Devil Sect. I'm going to see her and avenge her." "Your girlfriend dares to fight with the Devil Sect. She must be a heroine." After chatting with Li Changsheng for a while, the old man did not get any useful information and sat back in his seat. The car swayed for more than 3 hours and finally arrived at the place. It was a relatively backward town. When Li Changxing got out of the car, he realized that there were many people coming and going in the town. On average, 1 out of every 3 people was a martial artist. Along the way, he also saw many experts. He thought to himself, "Looks like the Dao Sect conference this time has attracted many martial artists." After getting out of the car, Li Changsheng called Yi Shuang. Yi Shuang said that she had already arrived at the venue of the conference. The Dao Sect conference would be held for a few days. It was mainly to unite the power of the local cultivation world to suppress the Devil Sect. Not only did the Devil Sect disrupt the local order, but most importantly, it had a great impact on the local cultivation sections. That was why these people were willing to cooperate with the authorities. Li Changsheng arrived at the venue of the conference. It was an open-air stadium. When Li Changsheng was about to enter, he was stopped by 2 berserkers at the door. These 2 berserkers were also Yi Shuang's subordinates, but they did not know Li Changsheng. Just as Li Changsheng was about to call Yi Shuang, Lu Yuanming and his granddaughter, Lu Yan, walked over. They took out 2 invitation cards from their pockets. So it's Mr. Liu. The berserker was more respectful to Liu Yuanming. He's my friend, not a spy from the devil's sect. Let him in, Liu Yuanming said. The two berserkers nodded and let Li Chongqing pass. You two, coming to the Dao sect conference without an invitation. If it weren't for my grandfather speaking up for you, you wouldn't even be able to enter. Lu Yin finally found something that her grandfather could use to suppress Li Chongqing and immediately said proudly, "Thank you, old Master Liu." After saying that, Li Chongqing walked in. This guy is so arrogant. What's so great about him? Lu Yin pouted. Chapter 9:38. After Li Chongqing entered, he saw Yi Shuang discussing something with several important figures in the world of cultivation not far away. Du Shi and several other berserkers were standing behind her, while the people around them were greeting her in groups. At this moment, as Yi Shuang and the others walked up to the high platform, the place gradually quieted down. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this Dao sect conference. Evil sects and crooked paths are rampant in southern Yunnan. This time, I've been ordered by my superiors to join forces with everyone to change the chaos in southern Yunnan. The main purpose of today's Dao sect conference is to form the Demon Slayer Alliance. Everyone will work together to completely destroy the demon sect. As soon as Yi Shuang finished speaking, someone immediately said, "Since we're forming the Demon Slayer Alliance, who will be the leader?" Hearing this, Yi Shuang frowned and said, "I represent the government, and we have a lot of experience in slaying demons, so I'll be the leader for the time being." "I disagree," the man said loudly. That person said loudly, "I think that to be the alliance leader, one must be of virtue and prestige. Most importantly, one must be strong enough to convince everyone. If you, Yi Shuang, want to be the alliance leader, that's fine. As long as you can defeat me, I will agree." As soon as the man finished speaking, there was a burst of agreement from the people around. The world of cultivation respects strength. The leader should be decided based on strength. Yes, whoever is stronger will be the leader. Yi Shuang, if you want to be the leader, accept the challenge. It was a mess below. In ancient times, those who served the country were called dogs. Although they wanted to use the power of the government to deal with evil sects and crooked paths, they were unwilling to be led by the government. Yi Shuang did not expect such a situation, and she could not help but frown. The surrounding berserkers took a step forward at the same time, looking coldly at these people from the world of cultivation. As long as Yi Shuang nodded, they would not hesitate to make a move on these people. "Our captain was injured in a fight with the demon sect some time ago, so she can't accept your challenge." A berserker stepped forward and said, "We're just letting you accept our command temporarily. Why are you so agitated?" Du Shi also stepped forward. Back then, he was also Yi Shuang's instructor, but later on, Yi Shuang's achievements were higher than his, and her status surpassed his. "Huh, I don't care if she's injured or not. If she doesn't dare to accept the challenge, just say so. Why do you have to find so many excuses?" The man said loudly, "Yes, we can form an alliance, but the leader must be someone from the Dianan cultivation world." Although Yi Shuang was very talented in cultivation and her strength had improved by leaps and bounds in just a few years after the recovery of spirit energy, she had only been cultivating for a short period of time. She could not be compared to the people from the cultivation families and sects that had thousands of years of history. Moreover, Yi Shuang was already injured. If she really fought with these people, her chances of winning were very small. Since you don't dare to accept the challenge, then scram to the side. The leader will be someone we choose." "Exactly. Get lost. Scram." These cultivators shouted one after another under the influence of some people with malicious intentions. Yi Shuang's face turned pale. This time, her mission was to unite the local forces in Dianan to suppress the evil and crooked path. If the position of the alliance leader was taken by someone from the cultivation world, she wouldn't be able to report back. With the recovery of spirit chi, the prestige of the authorities was constantly declining. Therefore, the authorities were determined to get the position of the alliance leader. "If you can't accept me being the alliance leader, I don't think there's any need to talk about the alliance anymore," Yi Shuang said coldly. She absolutely could not let the prestige of the authorities be damaged, so she would rather lose the support of the local cultivators. Moreover, Li Changxing was here. It did not matter to Yi Shuang whether she had the support of the local cultivators or not. Huh, are you kidding us, Yi? You're the one who wants to form an alliance, and you're the one who wants to not form an alliance. You're dreaming. That's right. If you dare not form an alliance, you'll never leave Dianan alive. The crowd was furious and shouted loudly. Yi Shuang could not help but clench her fists. If Captain Yi can't accept the challenge, I'll do it. At this moment, Du Shi spoke. Apart from Yi Shuang, he was the one with the highest status among the berserkers present. If you lose, will we be the alliance leader? The man asked loudly. This, Du Shi dare not nod. The responsibility was too great. Huh, if you can't make the decision, then get lost. The man's tone was getting more and more arrogant. Who is he? Li Changsheng saw Lu Yuanming and his granddaughter standing next to him. He could not help but ask in a low voice. He's the sect master of the Black Gold sect. Lu Yuanming said, the Black Gold sect is not particularly powerful in Dianan, but Ji Juanhao is a very impressive figure. He's already a Vujra realm expert at such a young age. His strength is very terrifying. His personal strength can be ranked in the top 3 among all the orthodox forces in Dianan. Other than the sect master of the Stormy Wave sect, Xia Wuchao, and the sect master of the Huanyu sect, Yi Tianhua, no one from the orthodox forces in Dianan is a match for him. It seems that he stood out to oppose to be the alliance leader of the demon-slaying alliance. Li Changxing asked. Not necessarily. Lu Yuanming shook his head. To the cultivators in Dianan, although the demon sect is a huge threat to them, they're also wary of the official forces. They only want to use the official forces to deal with the demon sect. They don't want the official forces to extend their influence to Dianan. Therefore, even without Ji Juanhao, the other cultivators won't allow Yi Shuang to be the alliance leader. These people want the horse to run faster, but they also want the horse to not eat grass. How can there be such a beautiful thing? Li Changsheng snorted coldly. Lu Yuanming looked at Li Changsheng in surprise. You're the only person I've met who isn't hostile to the official forces. At the end of the day, the official forces and the cultivation world have always been at odds. Now that they're temporarily cooperating because of the demon sect, they both have ulterior motives. Actually, I've also received another piece of news. The reason why Yi Shuang was injured previously is very likely not because of the demon sect, but because of the orthodox sections. They injured her so that she won't be able to unleash her combat strength during the Dao sect meeting. Then, she won't be able to take the position of the alliance leader. Hearing Lu Yuanming's words, Li Changxing's face immediately turned gloomy. Originally, Li Changsheng was too lazy to interfere in the open and veiled struggle between the official forces and the Dianan Dao sect. Li Changsheng did not care whether Yi Shuang was the alliance leader or not. However, when Li Changsheng heard that even Yi Shuang's injuries might be caused by these so-called allies, he was furious. At this moment, the others were still shouting. Yi Shuang, you're not worthy to be the alliance leader. Get Yi Shuang to scram to the side and give up the position of the alliance leader. Ji Juanhao pulled out the sword in his hand and pointed it at Yi Shuang, saying, if you want to be the alliance leader, then come down and fight me. Otherwise, the position of alliance leader will be taken by someone from the world of cultivators. Since you want to fight, I'll fulfill your wish. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man in casual clothes walking out. Meanwhile, Lu Yuanming and Lu Yan were completely dumbfounded. Young man, what are you doing? Lu Yuanming hurriedly asked. However, Li Changsheng did not turn around at all. Who are you? Ji Juanhao frowned and looked at Li Changsheng. I'm Yi Shuang's boyfriend and the chief instructor of the berserkers. The identity of Yi Shuang's boyfriend was not a deterrent to the people present. However, when they heard that Li Changsheng was the chief instructor of the berserkers, everyone's face suddenly became serious. After all, Yi Shuang was also a member of the berserkers. Over the years, the Berserkers had cultivated many young experts. If he could be the chief instructor of the Berserkers, his strength was probably not ordinary. How can the Berserkers have a chief instructor like you? A Berserker standing behind Yi Shuang suddenly said loudly. In an instant, Yi Shuang, Du Shi, and the others looked at the Berserker with surprise. As soon as Li Chongqing appeared, he could not wait to deny Li Chongqing's identity. It was more like he was explaining something to Ji Juanhao and the others. Thinking of how Yi Shuang was injured by the demon sect's sneak attack some time ago, Li Chongqing suddenly thought of many things. Chapter 9:39. Quan Shi, what's the matter with you? Yi Shuang frowned. Nothing, nothing. Quan Shi hurriedly shook his head to deny it. You've been with me for so long. I know you too well. If you have a clear conscience, you would never have such an expression. Tell me, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Hearing Yi Shuang's question, Quan Shi hesitated for a moment and finally lowered his head. Captain Yi, before I joined the Berserkers, I was actually a disciple of the Jindao sect in Dianan. Some time ago, my master found me and hoped that I could help them. I see. Quan Shi, since you've chosen between the Berserkers and your sect, then go back to your sect. Fortunately, you didn't do anything to endanger the Berserkers, Yi Shuang said. Okay. Quan Shi nodded and stepped toward the Jindao sect. At this time, Li Chongsheng said, he has done something to endanger you. How do you think you got injured? It was he who secretly joined forces with his sect to ambush you. Hearing Li Chongsheng's words, Yi Shuang's eyes instantly became fierce. The Berserkers' faces also suddenly changed. Quan Shi's face was even more ferocious. Don't talk nonsense. Who do you think you are? How dare you slander me? I told you, I'm the chief instructor of the Berserkers. Li Chongsheng smiled slightly. The chief instructor of the Berserkers? Why haven't I seen you before? He is. At this time, Yi Shuang said, Chongsheng, you're here. Yes, I'm here. No one can bully you anymore. What's going on? Yi Shuang looked at Li Chongsheng. In order to prevent you from being the leader, the cultivation sects in Dianan asked Quan Shi to reveal your whereabouts, and then sent someone to ambush and injure you. You're injured and your combat strength is greatly reduced. Naturally, you can't compete for the leader's position. Hearing Li Chongsheng's words, Yi Shuang's face completely changed. She didn't expect that these people from the Taoist sects, who claimed to be righteous, would be so despicable. What chief instructor of the Berserkers? If you slander us again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Ji Juanhao said loudly. Li Chongqing knew that no matter how much he said, these people would not admit it. Moreover, it was meaningless. Even if they admitted it, they would not let Yi Shuang become the alliance leader. The world of cultivation still spoke with fists. Thus, he took a step forward and looked coldly at Ji Juanhao. Let's not talk about this for now. You said that as long as the Berserkers can defeat you, you'll make Yi Shuang the alliance master, right? That's right. Why? Do you want to fight me? Ji Juanhao sized up Li Chongsheng with disdain in his eyes. In his opinion, there was nothing special about Li Chongsheng. Before this, they had already investigated the members of the Berserkers and had never heard of anyone called Li Chongsheng. Make your move, Li Chongsheng said indifferently. Chapter 940. How dare you? On the high platform, several old men stood out at the same time. These people were all highly respected people in Dianan's cultivation world. Friend, you're killing people in front of all the cultivators in Dianan. Don't you think you're looking down on us? An old man in green looked coldly at Li Chongsheng. He was the sect master of the Stormy Wave sect, Xiaowu Chao. He was even more powerful than Ji Juanhao and ranked second in Dianan. The Stormy Wave sect that he was in charge of was also one of the top cultivation sects in Dianan. He had a high prestige in Dianan, and it was not an exaggeration to say that he had the most power in Dianan. At this time, Xiaowu Chao had already strode out and stood 5 meters away from Li Chongsheng. This time, the masterminds were him and Yi Tianhua. Ji Juanhao was just following their orders. Now, that Li Changsheng had popped out, of course, he had to clean up the situation. I didn't expect that even Xia Wuchao would take action. Lu Yuanming stared at the field. His seniority in Dianan was about the same as Xia Wuchao's, but in terms of strength, he was thousands of miles away. It's a pity for this young man. Being able to defeat Ji Juanhao shows his potential, but Xia Wuchao is much stronger than Ji Juanhao. Ji Juanhao was only at the early stage of the Vajra realm, while Xia Wuchao was close to the peak. Tenji Junhao's might not be able to defeat Xia Wuchao. On the other side, Du Shi, Zheng Rang, and the other berserkers were all excited. The instructor's strength is outstanding. These people dare to provoke the instructor. They're courting death. Yeah, what bullsh asterisk T number 2 in Dianan. They're just trash in front of the instructor. The berserkers had blind worship for Li Changsheng. However, these words were extremely harsh to the ears of the forces in Dianan. Xia Wuchao, in particular, clenched his fists. With his status, when had he ever been looked down upon like this? Xia Wuchao looked coldly at Li Changsheng and said in a deep voice, "Friend, you're so ruthless. I must seek justice for them." The corners of Li Changsheng's mouth curled up. "If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Upon hearing Li Changsheng's words, Xia Wuchao, who was already furious, became even more furious. "Since that's the case, don't blame me for being impolite." Xia Wuchao suddenly operated his true chi and stepped on the ground. The whole stadium shook. A huge crater appeared on the cement floor under his feet, and his whole body shot towards Li Changsheng like a cannonball. Wherever his fist passed, there was a gust of wind. Leader Xia's kung fu is amazing. At that moment, it was not just the cultivators from Dianan who were shocked. Even the berserkers' expressions changed slightly. After going through Li Changsheng's training, they were full of confidence. But now, after seeing Xia Wuchao's strength, they realized that they still had a long way to go in the future. Xia Wuchao's fist could probably blow up a small mountain. This was the true power of the Vajra realm. After all, Ji Juanhao had just entered the Vajra realm. He was still too weak. Even Lu Yuanming couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, he was worried about Li Changsheng. Xia Wuchao is so powerful. Will that young man be punched into a bloody mist? Many people's eyes were fixed on Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng was still standing there in a relaxed manner. In the face of such a fist, he was unmoved. It's over. Although this young man is powerful, he is too arrogant. How can Xia Wuchao's fist be so easy to take? If he blocks it with all his strength, there may be a glimmer of hope. But looking at him, he doesn't even have the intention to defend. I'm afraid he will be blown up in the next second. Lu Yuanming shook his head. The berserkers' hearts were in their mouths. At this moment, Xia Wuchao's attack had already arrived in front of him. His fist was like an iron axe that could split open a mountain as it descended from the sky, bringing with it a valiant aura that could split the sky apart. Before the fist fell, the fierce wind had already caused scratches on the cement floor under Li Changsheng's feet. Just the wind alone was like a knife. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this blow was. Xia Wuchao was very confident. Unless it was a profound realm expert, even a peak Vajra realm expert would vomit blood when facing this punch. Be careful. Even though she knew Li Changsheng's strength, Yi Shuang still couldn't help but remind him. The fist fell quickly. Li Changsheng held his head high and had no intention of blocking it. It was as if he had already accepted his fate. "What's going on? What's wrong with the instructor?" Du Shi said anxiously. Could it be that the instructor is no match for Xia Wuchao and chose to give up resisting? The berserkers couldn't stay calm at that moment. Bang! In the next second, Li Changsheng's head was slightly tilted, and the fist landed on his shoulder. Boom! A huge tremor came from the ground. Cracks cracked under Li Changsheng's feet. Under the terrifying force, a gale formed and swept in all directions. Many people couldn't stand still and were blown to the side. Lu Yuanming's granddaughter, Lu Yin, was so shocked that she felt something sweet in her throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Yuanming hurriedly transferred his true qi in her body to stop her from continuing to be injured. It's too terrifying. Xia Wuchao deserves to be the second expert in Dianan. Is that young man dead? Under such an attack, how can he survive? Many people were discussing. When the power subsided, everyone's face was full of horror. Li Changsheng was standing there steadily. On the other hand, Xia Wuchao's arm was hanging limply. It was obviously broken. How could this be? How is this possible? Looking at this scene, everyone's face was full of disbelief. The one who was hit was fine, but the attacker was seriously injured. Not to mention others. Even Xia Wuchao himself couldn't believe it. Feeling the severe pain from his arm, he stared at Li Changsheng with fear. He had just used all his strength in that move. Do you still want to continue? If you don't, then I will. Li Changsheng grinned. The momentum on his body changed completely. Then he slowly clenched his fists. At this moment, a terrifying aura spread out from Li Changsheng's body. Xia Wuchao's face suddenly turned pale. He was so scared that he turned around and wanted to escape. However, in the next moment, Li Changsheng's body had turned into an afterimage and hit Xia Wuchao. Boom! In a panic, Xia Wuchao raised an arm to block, but he saw that the arm was broken in an instant. The remaining power of the fist hit his chest. Bang! He flew out like a kite, with a broken string. You dare to plot against Yishuang. You're courting death. As soon as his voice fell, Li Changsheng directly waved his palm and hit Xia Wuchao. He wanted to end Xia Wuchao's life directly. Many people in the world of cultivation in Dianan looked at this scene in a daze. Many people who had a good relationship with Xia Wuchao dared not stand up at this moment. At this moment, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of Xia Wuchao. He raised his hand and slashed out a blade light, breaking Li Changsheng's palm force. He said, "Friend, you have seriously injured him. How about you spare his life for my sake?" This man in white was none other than Yi Tianhua, the leader of the Huanyu sect, which ranked first among the orthodox sects in Dianan. Chapter 9:41. Yi Tianhua was the #1 fighter in Dianan. If he had stepped out before, he would have given the cultivators in Dianan a lot of excitement. However, even if he had stepped out now, there was still not much excitement on the crowd's face. Li Changsheng was just too powerful. Ji Juanhao had just entered the Vajra realm, but Xia Wuchao was already close to the peak of the Vajra realm and still lost so miserably. Even if Yi Tianhua was slightly stronger than Xia Wuchao, what was the use of facing such a terrifying person? I'm afraid that even sect leader Yi Tianhua is no match for him. Many people lamented. Li Changsheng sneered. Who do you think you are? Why should I give you face? His words were absolute, and there was no room for negotiation. Young man, you are very powerful, but do you really think that I can't defeat you? Yi Tianhua took a step forward. His clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. It was as if he had broken free from some kind of shackle. The surrounding vital qi of heaven and earth surged into his body. What's going on? Many people at the scene widened their eyes and were confused. Several seniors of the martial arts world in Dianan were pleasantly surprised. Finger Xian. Yi Tianhua has broken through to the Finger Xian realm. An old man's voice started to tremble. Suddenly, everyone's expression changed. In the era where Earth immortals didn't appear, the Finger Xian realm was the most powerful fighter on Earth. No wonder Yi Tianhua still dares to step out after seeing the young man's strength. Sect leader Yi is already 70 years old this year. I didn't expect him to break through to the Finger Xian realm. With sect leader Yi here, we don't need to work with the officials. The crowd started to discuss. Everyone looked at Yi Tianhua with reverence in their eyes. Almost instantly, everyone looked at Li Changsheng with pity in their eyes. Yi Tianhua stood proudly and looked at Li Changsheng. He said, "Do you still think that my face is worthless?" Li Changsheng shook his head. Is the Finger Xian realm that great? I can't even count the number of Finger Xian realm fighters I have killed. Young man, you are really arrogant. Looks like I have to teach you a lesson. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Tianhua suddenly floated towards Li Changsheng. At the same time, his palm lightly slapped towards Li Changsheng's direction. It looked like a casual slap, but even the air started to shake. Was this the power of a Finger Xian realm fighter? Everyone who saw this scene felt their hearts tremble in fear. Finger Profound realm experts drew the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into their bodies. Every move they made contained the might of heaven. When Yi Tianhua attacked, everyone who was present could tell how terrifying this attack was. Just as the palm was about to land, Li Changsheng finally raised his fist and punched out. This punch didn't seem to have any power at first, but the moment it was completely released, a terrifying gust of wind whizzed out like a cannonball. The powerful impact caused cracks to appear on the cement floor under Li Changsheng's feet. Yi Tianhua's expression changed drastically. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to dodge. First, his palm attack was broken. Then, the horrifying energy rushed towards him like a flood. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the power of this punch landed on Yi Tianhua's chest. Then this expert who had already entered the Finger Profound realm was instantly sent flying and landed a dozen or so meters away. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Lu Yuanming's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His granddaughter Lu Yan's mouth was wide open. It was big enough to stuff a cucumber in. As for the other cultivators, they were all dumbfounded. Only Yi Shuang and the Berserker warriors looked like they were right. In their hearts, Li Changsheng was invincible. Yi Tianhua, who was sent flying, got up from the ground. His clothes were ragged and his hair was disheveled. He looked at Li Changsheng with fear and asked seriously, "Could it be that you are also a Finger Xian realm fighter? I said it before. I can't even count the number of Finger Xian realm fighters I have killed. Finger Xian realm fighters are just ants in my eyes. Arrogant. I was just underestimating you. Do you really think you could defeat me?" Yi Tianhua's aura surged. His eyes were filled with endless murderous intent. He was the #1 cultivator in Dianan. After breaking through to the Finger Xian realm, he could be considered one of the top cultivators in the world. Now, he was sent flying by Li Changsheng in front of so many people. He had lost all his face. "Man, you won't give up until you see the coffin." Li Changsheng shook his head. His eyes were filled with disdain. "You're asking for death." Yi Tianhua charged at Li Changsheng again. However, it was different from before. This time, as soon as he made his move, a terrifying aura spread out. "Good timing." Li Changsheng laughed. He clenched his fist and punched. Boom! Their fists met in the air. With a loud boom, it was like a huge explosion. In the next second, Yi Tianhua was sent flying again. This time, he flew even further. After he landed, he smashed a deep hole in the cement ground. Everyone around him sucked in a breath of cold air. If Yi Tianhua had underestimated his opponent in the beginning, then now he couldn't possibly underestimate his opponent again. As Yi Tianhua got up from the ground, blood kept flowing out of his mouth. His eyes were filled with astonishment. How is this possible? He's only so old. How can he be so strong? Yi Tianhua felt that his belief in martial arts had been shaken. At this moment, he finally understood the difference between him and Li Changsheng. Compared to Li Changsheng, he was only at the Finger Xian realm. At this moment, Li Changsheng had already formed another palm print. He slapped down from the air like he was swatting a fly. He wanted to kill Yi Tianhua immediately. "I'll fight you to the death." Yi Tianhua casually threw out a blade of light. It was filled with killing intent. He was really going to fight to the death. Yi Tianhua's most powerful skill was his blade technique. Once the blade of light was thrown out, it created layers of sharpness. It actually split Li Changsheng's palm print in half. "Looks like you have some skills." Li Changsheng shook his head. "Since you like to use weapons, then I'll use weapons to teach you how to be a man." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Changsheng immediately took out his cold light sword. A silver light flashed across the sky. As he waved his hand, it split the air in half. Whoosh! At this moment, under the sharp sword chi, the air was shattered like waves being split apart. The silver sword light slashed down with an unstoppable force. Yi Tianhua's blade of light was instantly shattered. What a terrifying sword qi! Yi Tianhua's eyes were filled with fear. His body quickly retreated. He knew that he would not be able to block such a sword. Whoosh! Even though he retreated fast enough, his chest was still hit by the sword light. A ghastly wound appeared on his chest. Fresh blood instantly dyed his clothes red. Not bad. You're quite agile. If you can dodge the second sword light, I'll spare your life. As he spoke, another beam of silver sword light formed in the sky. In the entire gymnasium, everyone's heart was palpitating. Yi Tianhua, who was targeted by the sword light, felt his entire body turn cold. Despair rose in his heart. In the next second, he raised his hands without hesitation. Instructor Li, you're a heavenly being. I overestimated myself. Please show mercy and give me a chance to atone for my crimes. Yi Tianhua actually gave up resisting. Chapter 942. Yi Tianhua was a smart person. He knew that he was no match for Li Changsheng, so he chose to admit defeat. Seeing Yi Tianhua kneeling down, the sword light in the sky did not disappear. Instead, it slashed down. Yi Tianhua's eyes were filled with despair. He would definitely die if the sword slashed him down. Be careful, sect leader Yi. Many people around let out cries of surprise. Just as the sword light was about to slash down, it stopped when it was less than an inch away from Yi Tianhua's head. The sharp sword aura cut Yi Tianhua's scalp, and blood flowed down his face. The condensed sword light completely dissipated. Li Changxing nodded slightly. Very good. Since you didn't stop it, I'll let you go for now. Yi Tianhua let out a long breath with lingering fear in his heart. You said that strength is everything. Now that Yi Shuang is the leader of the demon-slaying alliance, who's still not convinced. Li Changxing looked at everyone calmly, but no one dared to say anything. What a joke. Even Yi Tianhua was defeated by him. Who would dare to offend Li Changxing? I have no objections to Yi Shuang being the leader of the demon-slaying alliance. Yi Tianhua was the first to speak. Ji Juanhao, Xia Wuchao, and the rest nodded. Since the three leaders had nodded, the others naturally had no objections. Therefore, the demon-slaying alliance was officially established with Yi Shuang as the leader. Yi Tianhua, Ji Juanhao, Xia Wuchao, and the rest were the elders. Although diabolism was rampant in Dianan, the ancient tooth sect was the most dangerous one. As one of the top 30 diabolism sects in the world, the Bone Tooth sect had dominated Dianan for many years. Almost all the diabolism sects in Dianan followed their lead. The Bone Tooth sect's leader, the Withered Bone Taoist, was rumored to be at the Finger Mystic Realm. Other than that, the Bone Tooth sect had 4 guardian kings, and each of them had extraordinary strength. Before Yi Tianhua broke through to the Finger Mystic Realm, the orthodox sects in Dianan were suppressed. Ji Juanhao and the rest introduced Dianan's current situation to Yi Shuang and the rest. Li Changsheng sat there and listened quietly. If it was not for his previous display of power, no one would have thought that this quiet young man could suppress the super experts of Dianan's cultivation world by himself. By the way, why isn't anyone from the Longevity sect participating in the Dao sect conference this time? Li Changsheng suddenly thought of something. Ji Lushui changed the doctrine of the Changshan sect and established the Xinyuan sect. Before Li Changsheng left Earth, he changed the Xinyuan sect back to the Changshan sect and let the Grand Elder Yu Zhengtang and others take charge of the sect. People like Yu Zhengtang and Ko Shaoqing were all at the Profound Realm, but they were not invited to this Dao sect meeting. Hearing Li Changxing's words, everyone's expression changed. Li Changxing also realized that something was wrong and asked, "What's going on?" The Changxing sect has long ceased to exist. Today's 12 demon sects of Dianan were split from the Changsheng sect. Xia Wuchao said, "What's going on with the 12 demon sects?" Li Changxing realized that the Changsheng sect might have changed a lot after he left Dianan. Originally, the Changxing sect was one of the top orthodox sects in Dianan. However, after the recovery of spirit qi, there was internal turmoil. The Supreme Elder Ko Shaoqing and the other Supreme Elder Sun Jingguang had different ideas. In addition, the 9 disciples of the former sect master of the Xinyuan sect, Ji Lushui, who had gone out to train, returned to the sect to fight for power. Therefore, the Chongqing sect was officially disbanded after the turmoil. Apart from the Supreme Elder Ko Shaoqing, who was still in charge of the Chongqing sect, Sun Jingguang re-established the Xinyuan sect. Yu Zhengtang established the Heavenly Thunder sect. The 9 disciples established their own sects and developed their own disciples. Now, there were a total of 12 sects, and they dominated a region. In particular, the 9 sects established by the 9 disciples supported each other and were now the most powerful force in the demon sects. Because they were both righteous and evil, they did not follow the rules and cause chaos. Hearing this, Li Chongqing finally understood that the Dao sect meeting was going to deal with the former Chongqing sect. What's going on with the Bonfang sect? Li Chongqing asked. The Bonfang sect was established by the eldest senior brother of the Xinyuan sect, the Withered Bone Taoist. Now, it's the most powerful demon sect in southern Yunnan. The other demon sects that split from the Xinyuan sect are not in southern Yunnan. Oh, I see. The former Chongqing sect had become one of the 12 demon sects, and he, the sect master, was the chief instructor of the berserkers. This was a little awkward. However, apart from Ko Shaoqing, the others were hostile to him. He remembered that the cultivation of the 9 disciples was sealed by him, and they could only be unsealed when they broke through to the Earth celestial stage. Logically speaking, it's impossible for them to break through to the Earth celestial stage on Earth. Li Chongqing could only hide this doubt in his heart. Everyone sat together and discussed for a long time. The Dao sect meeting was held continuously for the next few days. However, Li Chongqing did not participate in it anymore. On the 3rd day after the Dao sect meeting ended, various forces launched a surprise attack on the Bonfang sect under the command of Yi Xuan. The mountain gate of the Bonfang sect was located in the depths of the mountains. It was the location of the former Xinyuan sect. Under Yi Xuan's command, various forces descended from the sky and directly charged in. The battle was surprisingly smooth, and they only encountered sporadic resistance. When a large group of people charged in, they realized that there was no one inside. Yi Xuan cursed in her heart. She was about to command her subordinates to leave when she saw a dense crowd of figures appearing from all directions and surrounding everyone. A man holding a bone sword appeared on the mountain peak and shouted down below, "Is Yi Xuan of the Berserkers here? I've been waiting for you for a long time. I've already seen through your little trick. Surrender now, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death today. Let's kill our way out." Yi Xuan did not care about the shouts from above. She took the lead and led the berserkers to break out of the encirclement. However, she was blocked as soon as she reached the entrance of the valley. A dense crowd of figures appeared. Apart from the Withered Bone Taoist, 8 other figures appeared. Yi Xuan's face turned extremely ugly. The Withered Bone Taoist's 8 junior brothers are all here. It's over. Haven't the higher-ups been monitoring the movements of the other demon sects? Before we set off, they said that there was no movement from the other demon sects. Why would they suddenly appear here? Yi Xuan said in exasperation. If it was only the Bonfang sect, they could also fight their way out after being surrounded. At most, they would suffer some casualties. However, with 9 demon sects appearing together, it was impossible to break out. It's over. Even Yi Xuan was in despair at this moment. She could not help but look at Li Chongqing beside her. "Chongqing, you're strong. Don't worry about us. Go fight your way out. I hope to see you again in the next life." Hearing Yi Xuan's words, Li Chongqing was amused. Isn't it just 9 fellows who betrayed their master? Just leave it to me. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Yi Xuan suddenly became anxious. "Chongqing, don't be rash. The 9 of them are all profound realm experts. Moreover, I've received information that the 9 of them are proficient in a kind of joint attack. Once the 9 of them join forces, their combat power will increase exponentially. Don't worry." Li Chongqing smiled slightly. At this moment, a figure appeared in the sky and quickly approached. An old man in a long robe appeared, accompanied by a hearty laugh. "Martial nephews, I heard that you're ambushing the officials here. I'm here to help you." When this figure appeared, Li Changsheng recognized the identity of the other party at a glance. It was the former Supreme Elder Sun Jingwang of the Xianyuan sect and the current sect leader of the Xianyuan sect. The appearance of Sun Jingwang made the despair in everyone's eyes even deeper. However, it did not stop there. Two more figures came together. Ko Xiaoqing and Yu Jingtang also appeared. The former Xianyuan sect was divided into 12 sections. Today they were gathered here. It's really complete. Li Changsheng was about to stand out when he suddenly saw the 12 people kneeling down together. A white silhouette floated over. Li Changsheng could not help but tremble. There was a complicated look in his eyes. Ji Lu Shui. He once had high hopes for him, but in the end, he betrayed his traitorous disciple. Chapter 943. With the appearance of the demon's sect, everyone panicked. They knew that they had fallen into the enemy's trap. Ji Lu Shui, who was dressed in white, appeared in front of Yu Jingtang and the others who knelt down respectfully. Despair was written all over their faces. Are we going to die here today? Even the berserkers, who worshipped Li Changsheng, lost their confidence at this moment. This was the legendary hierarch of the Xianyuan sect, the master of the 9 demon sect leaders. How dare you team up against the Xianyuan sect? Kill them all. Ji Lu Shui had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. His face was filled with arrogance. He stood there like a king, giving people a mountain-like temperament. Hearing Ji Liu Shui's words, the demon sect disciples rushed over from all directions. The berserkers were ready to fight. At this moment, Li Changsheng walked out slowly. After sending the first wave of people flying, he looked at Ji Lu Shui. "Lu Shui, long time no see. Who are you? How dare you call our hierarch by his name?" A disciple stood out and scolded him loudly. Before Li Changsheng could say anything, Ji Lu Shui slapped that disciple and sent him flying. "Mr. Li, how dare you scold him? You're courting death." "Ha! Mr. Li, what's wrong, Lu Shui? I taught you a lot of power. Now you don't even want to call me master? I'm not necessarily inferior to you, master. Now that I'm stronger than you, I think it's better for us to call each other fellow," Ji Lu Shui said. Li Changsheng couldn't help but feel disappointed. This was the disciple he had taught. "You're not worthy to call me fellow. You deceitful bastard. Today, I'll teach you a lesson." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Changsheng's killing intent began to spread. He was completely disappointed in this disciple of his. However, after Li Changsheng finished speaking, Ji Lu Shui turned around and ran away without hesitation. At the same time, his voice came from afar. "Li Changsheng, today is not a good day to fight. I will defeat you in front of the whole world and let everyone know that I, Ji Lu Shui, am stronger than you, Li Changsheng." As the voice came, Ji Lu Shui disappeared from Li Changsheng's vision. Li Changsheng didn't give chase. He knew that if Ji Lu Shui said he would defeat him in front of the whole world, then he would do it. He knew his disciple too well. Although Ji Lu Shui had left, Ko Xiaoqing and the others were still there, especially the 9 disciples. Back then, the 9 of them were still no match for Li Changsheng, so naturally, they wouldn't make a move against Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng looked at Ko Xiaoqing. He actually had a good impression of Ko Xiaoqing because he was the only one who didn't establish his own sect after the longevity sect split. Instead, he continued to maintain the longevity sect in the name of the Great Elder. However, now that he appeared next to Ji Lu Shui, it was obvious that he had chosen to be loyal to Ji Lu Shui. Feeling Li Changsheng's gaze, Ko Xiaoqing took a step forward and knelt down before Li Changsheng, kowtowing 3 times. Ji Liu Shui's cultivation is unparalleled, and he is the #1 in the world. From now on, I will follow him. With that, he got up and left with his disciples. The others like Yu Jingtang and Sun Jingwang didn't say anything and silently left with their disciples. Soon, the people of the Demon Gate were all gone. At this time, Yi Tianhua and the others breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Li Changsheng with a bit of surprise. They didn't expect that Ji Lushui, the mastermind behind the 12 demon gates, was Li Changsheng's disciple. Being able to teach a disciple like Ji Lushui, they suddenly felt that it was not a shame to be defeated by Li Changsheng. The next day, the 12 demon gates announced that they would reunite. At the same time, news spread that Ji Lushui, the sect master of the Xinyuan sect, had come out and challenged Li Changsheng, the #1 expert in the world. All of a sudden, the world was shocked and countless people were looking at Dianan. Li Changsheng was known as the #1 expert in the world of cultivation. Some time ago, people of the Immortal Palace were so scared that they cut off one of their arms. Ji Lushui had challenged all the big sects and had never been defeated. The battle between the two of them was undoubtedly a grand event. At this time, in the camp of the Demon Killing Alliance, everyone looked very anxious. Mr. Li, it is very likely that Ji Lushui has broken through to the Earth Celestial stage. For hundreds of years, no one on Earth has reached this stage. You may not be a match for him. Yi Tianhua tried to persuade him. He knew that Li Changsheng was very powerful, but the Earth didn't allow the appearance of the Earth Celestial stage. He thought that Li Changsheng was at most at the peak of the Blackfinger stage. As for Ji Lushui, there were many rumors that he had returned from the extraterritorial land and was not suppressed by the way of heaven on earth. In response, Li Changsheng only smiled slightly. Not to mention the Earth Celestial stage, he could even kill a cultivator of the Golden Celestial stage with his sword. Of course, he was not afraid. However, he was too lazy to explain because no one would believe him. Is Changsheng still determined to go to the battle? Yi Shuang asked anxiously when she saw Yi Tianhua come out. Yi Tianhua sighed and nodded. Mr. Li is very confident. I tried to persuade him, but he wouldn't listen. I heard that Ji Lushui, the sect master of the Xinyuan sect, is going to challenge Li Changsheng. Are you going to watch the battle? Of course, this is the most powerful battle in the world. It is said that Ji Lushui is Li Changsheng's apprentice. Now he is challenging Li Changsheng to prove that his apprentice is not inferior to his master. So there is such a relationship. Li Changsheng is so pitiful. The apprentice that he taught with all his heart is going to step on him to reach the peak of martial arts. The Great Way is ruthless for the sake of one's own martial arts. So what if he is a master? Even if it's your parents, you might be able to give it up. This is the way of ruthlessness. In every corner of the country, countless people were talking about this battle. Most people were optimistic about Ji Lushui. A disciple dared to challenge his master, which showed that he was confident in himself. Moreover, Ji Lushui had been invincible for many years. Now that his battle record was dug out, it could be seen that he had made rapid progress. As the date of the battle approached, many people were waiting for it. In contrast to the people's expectation of this battle, the Berserker and the Taoist sects in Dianan were trying their best to persuade Li Changsheng not to participate in the battle. Even Chun Xiuming came by plane. They even found out the relationship between Yu Yuwei and Li Changsheng and asked Yu Yuwei to persuade Li Changsheng. However, Yu Yuwei knew Li Changsheng's temper very well. When he called, he only said, "No matter what decision you make, I will support you." Yi Shuang persuaded Li Changsheng for a few days. Seeing that Li Changsheng showed no signs of changing his mind, she finally sighed and stopped persuading him. She stayed by Li Changsheng's side every day and took care of Li Changsheng. It felt like Li Changsheng's days were numbered. Li Changsheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Finally, the day of the battle came. Countless martial artists had gathered in Dianan, which was originally desolate and uninhabited. They were all here to witness this battle. Sister, do you think Li Changsheng can defeat Ji Lushui? A pair of beautiful sisters were also in the crowd. They were Mu Xen and Mu Wan from the Mu family in Dianan. I don't know, but father said that Ji Lushui is likely to break through to the Earth Celestial stage, so Li Changsheng has little chance of winning. While talking, the two sisters had walked to the riverbank. On the opposite side of the riverbank was the site of the battle. The battle between powerhouses like Li Changsheng and Ji Lushui was bound to be shocking. Therefore, everyone consciously watched the battle on the opposite side of the river. Even a few finger-profound realm experts who have been famous for a long time didn't dare to get too close. Chapter 944. The members of the Green Sect also appeared in the crowd. The Great Ox, the king of giant bone snakes, and the others were surrounded by powerful demonic chi. Humph! What are they so arrogant about? They're just relying on Li Changsheng to show off their strength. After this battle, Li Changsheng will be killed by Ji Lu Shui. Let's see if the Green Sect will still be as powerful as they are now. Someone next to him disliked the Green Sect. Although the Green Sect had done some good things for the cultivation world, there were many monsters in the sect, which was regarded as evil by many orthodox sections. Without Li Changsheng, they would probably have to tuck their tails between their legs. Someone next to him agreed. These people have gone too far. Wang Hua couldn't help but want to argue with them, but he was stopped by Zhou Hong. That's enough. There are many people in the world who don't like the Green Sect. Are you going to make trouble for them one by one? After saying that, Zhou Hong looked a bit worried. I heard that Ji Lu Shui used to be our master's disciple. Now, he has probably reached the Earth Celestial stage. I wonder what are our master's chances of winning against him? The Earth Celestial stage. Even Wang Hua instantly fell silent. For the cultivators on Earth, the Earth's celestial stage was like a god. However, Mei Sangshu curled his lips and said, "You guys, isn't he just an Earth celestial stage? Our master has killed many heaven celestial stage cultivators in the Tiandu star area." While they were talking, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Yu Zhongtang, Ko Shaoqing, and the others appear together. The Xinyuan sect is here. I heard that the Xinyuan school has 3 elders and 9 true disciples. All of them are at the profound finger realm. I don't know if it's true or not. If it's true, then they can sweep away any cultivation sect in the world with their combat strength. That's not necessarily true. I heard that the Green Sect has many powerhouses at the profound stage. The Green Sect has subdued so many monsters and pretends to be an orthodox sect. In my opinion, they are actually evil, just like the Xinyuan sect. Right at this moment, a figure in snow-white clothes drifted down from the sky. Yu Jingtang and the others knelt down and saluted him. "Welcome, sect leader. He is Ji Lu Shui. He is so young. He's so handsome." Even though Ji Lu Shui is a demon cultivator, he probably doesn't know that his subordinates are doing this. His heart is filled with righteousness. A woman said loudly. "How did you know?" Someone beside him asked curiously. "Of course I know. He's so handsome. How would he be a bad guy?" The surrounding people were speechless. There were a lot of people like her who became Ji Liu Shui's fan in an instant. After Ji Lu Shui appeared, he sat cross-legged on a large rock and waited quietly. "I taught you sword principle. Now you're showing off in front of me." Li Changsheng pointed his finger. Silver sword light soared into the sky and directly tore a hole in Ji Liu Shui's sword net. Just like that, the battle began. The moment Li Changsheng broke the sword net, a cyan sword appeared in Ji Liu Shui's hand. It cut across the sky and directly slashed at Li Changsheng. This sword was called the Frightening Dragon Sword. Li Changsheng had given it to Ji Lu Shui. It was a treasure obtained from an ancient cave residence. The sword's quality was extremely high. At that time, Li Changsheng had asked Ji Lu Shui to refine it as his natal sword. However, he didn't expect that the sword technique and sword would be aimed at his head today. As the frightening dragon's sword slashed, ripples appeared in the void like water. Li Changsheng took out the cold light sword and formed a sword screen. When the sword light hit the sword screen, a terrifying energy wave burst out and spread in all directions. Wherever it passed, countless trees were cut down and collapsed. In the end, the sword light was blocked by the sword screen. Even Li Changsheng couldn't help but sigh. It could be said that Ji Lu Shui was the most talented among all his disciples. The innate sword body could be called a genius in sword principle. If the spiritual qi on earth had not been exhausted, or if he had been born in the Tiandu star area, he would have been a golden immortal. Back then, It was precisely because Li Changsheng had taken a fancy to his talent that he deliberately ignored his proud and aloof nature, leading to today's battle. If you hadn't betrayed your master with your talent, I might have been able to teach you the real sword principle. But it's a pity that you asked for it. Li Changsheng, don't try to shake my state of mind with such words. I can achieve what I have today because of your teaching, but it's more because of my talent. If you're really as powerful as you said, why haven't you broken through to the Earth's celestial stage? There are differences in the same stage. I haven't broken through to the Earth's celestial stage, but you will tremble under my feet today. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. Sword light condensed in front of him again and slashed at Ji Lushui. Eat my sword too. Chapter 945. The sword radiance was 100 feet long, and it sliced through the air. Under this sword light, the originally tranquil river was stirred up with huge waves. The clothes of the spectators on the shore were all drenched, as if there was a rainstorm in the clear sky. Ji Lushui waved his hands, and the sword in his hand bloomed like petals, forming layers of sword net. However, under Li Changsheng's sword light, the net of swords was neatly cut open, and a sword path was cut open. Ji Lushui's face changed, and he quickly stepped back. The sword radiance created a crack in the ground where he had been standing. Rocks flew, and dust filled the air as if it had been bombarded by tanks. I just formed this sword radiance casually. You can't even withstand it. How dare you say that I'm not inferior to you? Ha ha. Li Changsheng, since when do you need to use such despicable tricks to deceive people? You haven't reached the Earth's celestial stage, and the spirit chi in heaven and earth was triggered by the sword radiance. I'm afraid you've done your best. You insist on saying that it was a casual attack. With your pride, saying such words shows that you've exhausted all your tricks. You're scared, aren't you? Ji Lushui said loudly. Although he was forced back by Li Changsheng's sword, his eyes were filled with pride. If I'm right, that was the best you can do now. You haven't reached the Earth's celestial stage, and your body isn't strengthened by the essence chi in heaven and earth. How many times can you use such a move? Ji Lushui laughed. The people who were excited by Li Changsheng's sword radiance felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. Those who didn't think Li Changsheng would win sneered. Master, I'll call you Master one last time. I'll show you that I've surpassed you. Ji Lushui raised the sword radiance above his head. Boom! A thunderous sound came from the sky, and a horrible energy was emitted from his body. A powerhouse at the Earth's celestial stage could mobilize the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. At this moment, countless spiritual chi formed a whirlpool in the originally clear blue sky and poured into his body, merging into the sword in his hand. The frightening dragon's sword seemed to emit a dragon's roar, and a dazzling sword light was several 100 feet long, as if it wanted to pierce a hole in the sky. Although this sword had not yet slashed down, it had already caused the expressions of many people present to change. Ji Lushui, if the innate sword body that broke through to the Earth's celestial stage didn't have such power, I would start to doubt my judgment. Li Changsheng laughed heartily, but he didn't care at all. He also raised the cold light sword in his hand. Today, he would not only clean up the sect, but also let Ji Lushui know that his master would always be his master. When the sword light in Ji Lushui's hand reached the peak, the chi of heaven and earth formed a vortex and poured into his sword light. The sword chi surged like a collapsing mountain, smashing down with a terrifying aura. Break! Li Changsheng let out a loud shout, his sword light cutting across the sky. Even though Ji Lushui's sword light was as big as a mountain, it was still cut in half. The terrifying sword chi paused for a moment. Li Changsheng held the sword with both hands, opened a sword path in the void, and rushed directly to Ji Lushui. Li Changsheng, do you think this is all I have? Even though his killing move was broken, Ji Lushui was not surprised at all. He loosened his hand, and the frightening dragon sword turned into an azure dragon, rushing toward Li Changsheng with its teeth and claws bared. The sword chi could transform into anything. At this level, The next step was to use plants as swords to cut the stars. It could be said that Ji Lu Shui had reached the highest level of sword principle. Li Changsheng waved the cold light sword, as if he had turned into a cold moon. The azure dragon was cut in half by him, and the frightening dragon sword was also destroyed. Ji Lu Shui, I taught you the way of the sword, and I gave you the sword. Since I can give it to you, I can also take it back. Unleash the full potential of your innate sword body. Otherwise, you will die today. Li Changsheng strolled in the sky, his chi locked on to Ji Lu Shui. He was ready to kill him. Ji Lu Shui was connected to the frightening dragon sword. Now that the frightening dragon sword was destroyed by Li Changsheng, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He thought that he could defeat Li Changsheng after breaking through to the Earth Immortal stage. But he didn't know that Li Changsheng had the strength to kill Earth Immortals when he was only at the Finger Profound stage. During the trip to the Tiandu star field, he kept breaking through the 9 transformations of celestial demons. Although he hadn't broken through to the Earth Immortal stage yet, even Sky Immortals and True Immortals were killed by him. His combat strength was close to the Golden Immortal stage, which was many times more powerful than Ji Lu Shui. Li Changsheng, it seems that I underestimated you. Ji Lu Shui stepped on the ground, and his body rose into the sky. At the same time, his fingers turned into sword radiance and slashed at Li Changsheng. In response, Li Changsheng only waved his sleeve and easily shattered the sword light. Ji Lu Shui attacked again. Every time he waved his fingers, a sword radiance attacked Li Changsheng. In response, Li Changsheng stood motionless in the air. The sword light could not even get within 10 meters of him before it was shattered. Li Changsheng, I have the Khanate sword body. Do you think my attacks are so easy to break? He laughed, and the sword radiance that was shattered by Li Changsheng turned into thousands of small swords in the sky. These small swords merged with the essence chi of heaven and earth and grew bigger. At last, they formed a dense sword array and surrounded Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng, this is a divine power that I created myself, the thousand swords greeting. What do you think? Ji Lu Shui said coldly. Thousands of swords vibrated and boundless sword radiance crisscrossed. The so-called thousand swords greeting only has less than 2,000 swords. Ji Lu Shui, you are too vain. Really? 2,000 swords are enough to kill you. From now on, there will be no Li Changsheng in this world. As soon as Ji Lu Shui finished his words, the thousands of swords shone with cold light at the same time and shot toward Li Changsheng. The horrible sword essence smashed the void into pieces, and the earth was shaking. The river was flowing against the current under the guidance of the horrible sword radiance. It was a magnificent sight. The onlookers looked at the powerful Dharma power fluctuation in the sky and were shocked. Is this the attack of an Earth celestial stage powerhouse? Ji Lu Shui is indeed the sect master of the Xinyuan sect. I'm afraid no one in the world can stop him. Although Li Changsheng is powerful, he hasn't reached the Earth celestial stage. After all, he doesn't have the strength to control the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. I'm afraid he can't escape death today. But what Ji Lu Shui did today is deceiving his master. If someone imitates him in the future, the world will be in chaos. By then, no one will dare to teach their disciples wholeheartedly. I feel sorry for Li Changsheng. Countless seniors in the cultivation world sighed. Yi Shuang and the Berserker were nervous. Only Mei Zongshu was disdainful. Li Changsheng had killed the demon lord of the true immortal stage in the Tiandu star area. A mere earth celestial was nothing to him. Chapter 946. This disciple is indeed very talented in sword principle. What a pity. Li Changsheng sighed. Ji Lu Shui used to be someone he valued very much. He thought he could change Ji Liu Shui's mind, but he didn't expect that a leopard could change its spots. With such great talent in sword principle, there would be one less sword immortal in the world from now on. Li Changsheng put away the cold light sword, raised his hand, clenched it into a fist, and then punched forward. The fierce energy whizzed out along with the fist, like the waves of the sea rolling backwards. The 2,000 swords in front of him were swept away by the fist. How is this possible? Ji Lushui was in disbelief. He waved his hand and turned it into a sword light, blocking Li Changxing's fist force. However, the moment the sharp sword light came into contact with the fist force, it was instantly shattered. His incomparably proud swordsmanship was like a thin piece of paper facing a sharp blade in front of Li Changxing's fist, unable to withstand a single blow. Bang, 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 bang. It was a loud boom. Ji Lushui kept stepping back, barely dodging the fist attack. A mountain behind him collapsed under the force of the fist. Li Changxing stood in the sky and raised his hand, turning it into a giant handprint. Ji Lushui, today I will let you know my real strength. As the palm fell, the void kept exploding, and the chi of heaven and earth returned to chaos. Wherever the palm passed, it brought up a fierce wind, forming tornadoes. The river under his feet was swept up into the sky, creating a strange scene. Looking from afar, Li Changxing was like a god of water. The entire river was swept up by his palm, revealing the muddy riverbed below. Finally, the palm wrapped in endless river and wind pressed down directly, controlling the universe. Looking at the palm falling from the sky, Ji Liushui's face turned ugly. Vital essence surged all over his body, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. His 2 fingers suddenly turned red, and a sword light appeared between his 2 fingers. It kept spreading and finally became dozens of feet long. This was Ji Liushui's strongest sword principle, a sword light formed by gathering all the strength in his body. Ka 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 ka. The crimson sword light first shattered the falling river water and wild wind, and finally pierced the palm print's palm. The sword light was constantly being obliterated. At the same time, a hole was being pierced through the palm print. That hole was constantly being torn apart. The battle between the two had turned into a battle of true essence. Every time the palm landed, the sword light dimmed a little. At the same time, the palm force was also being worn down. Ka 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 ka. The sword light and the palm print clashed, producing a continuous sound. This red sword was the result of Ji Liushui's lifelong understanding of the Tao of the sword. It was extremely powerful, and if its true power was released, it could flatten several mountains. However, at this moment, under the power of the palm, it was continuously dimming. Boom! His palm was less than 15 meters away from Ji Liushui's head. The sword light was about to disappear, but Ji Liushui cut open his chest and dripped a drop of essence blood on his 2 fingers. The sword light instantly brightened up. In that instant, another part of the palm print was worn away. 4 zhang, 3 zhang, 2 zhang. In the end, the crimson sword light shattered. On the other hand, Li Changxing's palm was only left with 1 finger. Even though it was just 1 finger, it still exuded a terrifying power. Break it, Ji Liushui shouted. He actually opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, directly shattering the finger that was descending. At this moment, there was blood on the corner of Ji Liushui's mouth. His chest was also stained with blood. Li Changxing, I didn't expect you to be so powerful even though you haven't reached the Earth Immortal Realm. However, I still managed to break your attack. What do you do to me? Ji Liushui had changed from wanting to kill Li Changxing to wanting to fight on par with Li Changxing. This change in mentality was because he realized that Li Changxing was not as easy to deal with as he thought. Ji Liushui, your arrogance has blinded your eyes. Today, I will teach you the last lesson of your life. Li Changxing raised his hand, and countless yuan qi of heaven and earth gathered around him. It then condensed into a giant sword that pierced through the clouds, as if it was going to pierce a hole in the sky. The moment the sword light condensed, the entire sky began to shake. The spectators on the other side of the river were all shocked and hurriedly retreated. If such a sword fell, the aftermath alone would be enough to turn a finger-profound realm martial artist into ashes. Ji Liushui, you claim to be blessed by the heavens and talented in sword Tao. What do you think of my sword? Li Changsheng said in a cold voice. Ji Lushui loved sword Dao. He would use this giant sword to send him on his way. Ji Lushui looked at the giant sword in the sky and felt helpless. At the peak of sword Dao, one sword could move mountains and fill the sea. Li Changsheng's sword was obviously powerful enough to do that. Ji Lushui had studied sword Dao for many years and pursued the highest level of sword Dao. However, until now, he realized the gap between him and Li Changsheng. With just this sword, Li Changsheng's swordsmanship was already far superior to his by several levels. Li Changsheng condensed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth into a giant sword to tell Ji Lushui that he could use the spiritual qi of heaven and earth even if he was not an earth celestial. With this sword, he will be the king of sword Dao. One of Ji Liushui's disciples said in a trembling voice. The 9 of them were all geniuses in sword Dao. That was why they were accepted as disciples by Ji Lushui. In the past, Ji Lushui was supreme in their hearts. However, at this moment, they realized that their master's sword Dao was nothing. After today, Li Changsheng would be invincible in the world. Many forces that were hostile to Li Changsheng were filled with helplessness at this moment. Mu Xian and Mu Wan were even more dazzled. In the sky, the sword's momentum reached its peak. Li Changsheng's clothes fluttered in the wind as he controlled the giant sword to slash down from the sky. The sword light was relatively slow at first, but the further it went, the faster it became. In the end, the fierce wind stirred up by the sword light smashed the boulders below into pieces. This sword light had the power to split the heavens and the earth. The onlookers continued to retreat. Ji Liushui's 9 disciples clenched their fists. Yu Zhongtang, Ko Shaoqing, and the others wore complicated expressions. Is Ji Lushui really going to die under this sword light? Li Changsheng, you are indeed powerful. I admit that I am not as powerful as you. However, it is not that easy to kill me. At this moment, Ji Lushui waved his hand abruptly. More than 30 magic treasures shone and formed an array above his head to block the giant sword light. I thought I would never use this life-saving array. I didn't expect that I would use it today. Li Changsheng, although I lost to you today, I will surpass you one day. After saying that, Ji Liushui's eyes were filled with pity. These magic treasures were his lifelong collection. If this sword light were to hit him, he would become a pauper for real. Li Changsheng's face remained unmoved. Ji Lushui, do you really think you can block it? The sword light slashed down like a meteor crashing into the earth. The huge collision brought with it a terrifying energy that swept out in all directions. More than 30 magic treasures exploded one after another and turned into pieces. After the magic treasures exploded, the sword light was not neutralized and went straight to Ji Lushui. How can this be? Ji Liushui's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Li Changsheng's sword light to be so powerful. Chapter 9:47. At this moment, Ji Lushui ran away without hesitation. He had used all his trump cards, but he still couldn't stop Li Changsheng's attack. All his pride and belief had been shattered. The disciple may not be inferior to the master. This was the devil in his heart that had troubled him for half of his life. He had tried his best to prove it, but he failed in the end. He stepped on the ground and flew away like a shooting star. However, when he had just flown 3 meters, the sword radiance had already landed on him mercilessly. No! Ji Liushui's arrogant face finally showed his fear. He waved his hand and formed a sword radiance to block the attack. However, everything was in vain under the attack of the giant sword. The sword radiance that he had just formed was instantly shattered, and the giant sword hit Ji Liushui's body. Puff! Ji Lushui spat out a mouthful of blood. His body slid across the ground and hit a big rock behind him. The big rock was smashed into pieces. Blood continued to gush out of his mouth. His body was already cracked beyond recognition. His entire body was covered in blood. He slowly looked up at Li Changsheng and opened his mouth. Finally, his head tilted to one side, and he stopped breathing. He was dead. The grudge between the master and his disciple had finally come to an end. Ji Liushui's 9 disciples rushed toward Ji Liushui almost at the same time. They knelt on the ground and cried. Yu Zhengtang, Ko Shaoqing, and Sun Jingguang had complicated expressions. This time, Ji Liushui had returned and reached the Earth's celestial stage. Therefore, even Ko Shaoqing, who was loyal to Li Changsheng, chose to follow Ji Liushui. Because in the eyes of the cultivators on Earth, the Earth's celestial stage represented the highest level. It was more valuable than Li Changsheng's title of the most powerful cultivator in the world. However, no one had expected that Ji Liushui, who had reached the Earth's celestial stage, would be defeated so miserably. The members of the Green Sect and the Berserkers cheered. Their previous worries had now vanished in a thin air. Li Changsheng killed an Earth celestial stage powerhouse when he was not at the Earth celestial stage. From today on, his name would be synonymous with invincibility. Li Changsheng didn't look at Ji Liushui's dead body. He had let go of everything when he decided to kill Ji Liushui. Ji Liushui deserved to die. Li Changsheng wouldn't pity him. Wait! The withered bone Taoist, Ji Liushui's eldest disciple, suddenly spoke. What? You want to avenge your master? Li Changsheng was a little dispirited. What 9 great profound realm? There were just ants in his eyes. No, I wanted to say that master was your disciple. Now that he's dead, can you engrave that he was your disciple on his epitaph? No. Li Changsheng shook his head and refused. Ji Liushui betrayed his master and wanted to surpass him. He even wanted to kill him. Such a person was not worthy to be his disciple. All right, the withered bone Taoist lowered his head. He originally thought that the grudge between Ji Liushui and Li Changsheng would disappear with his death, but he didn't expect that Li Changsheng still couldn't forgive him. At this moment, Muon and her sister were both looking at Li Changsheng with extraordinary splendor. Coincidentally, Li Changsheng turned around and smiled at the 2 girls. Then, he walked towards a group of people from the Verdant Sect. Greetings, Master. As the current leader of the Verdant Sect, Zhou Hong led everyone to greet Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng looked at Mate Songshu. Is Shangwan Shui back? Mate Songshu shook his head. Li Changsheng gave Zhou Hong some instructions and then walked towards the Berserker and Yishuang. Ji Liushui was dead, and the power of the Dianan Dark Sect had collapsed. Li Changsheng's promise to Qin Shueming was over. It was time for him to leave. In the next few days, Li Changsheng accompanied Yi Shuang to wander around. 10 days later, Li Changsheng personally put a talisman around Yi Shuang's neck and gave her a bottle of elixir like Yi Yue. Yi Shuang's eyes suddenly turned red. Since Li Changsheng defeated Ji Liushui, she knew that this moment would come sooner or later. Li Changsheng's world was completely different from hers. Even if she had tried her best to catch up with Li Changsheng, she was still out of reach. I still have some things to do. Wait for me to come back. Li Changsheng kissed Yi Shuang's forehead gently, then turned around and took a few steps, disappearing from Yi Shuang's sight. Parting was always heartbreaking. After Li Changsheng and Yi Shuang parted ways, he did not rush back to the Verdant Sect. Instead, he began to explore some mysterious places on Earth. On this trip to the Tiandu Star region, many ancient inheritances called Earth the mysterious Yellow Star region. Li Changsheng knew that there must be many unknown secrets on Earth, so he wanted to explore and see if he could find anything. When passing by Suzhou, Li Changsheng called Wang Dongsheng. He got the phone number from Wei Hu, so he just happened to pass by and see an old friend. Not long after the phone call, a black Mercedes-Benz car appeared in front of Li Changsheng. The door opened, and Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen got out of the car together. Coach Li, I heard from Wei Hu that you were back some time ago, but I didn't dare to call you because you're not an ordinary person. Now that the spirit Qi had recovered, Wang Dongsheng and his wife had some guesses about Li Changsheng's identity. Coach Li, I happen to have a guest in my company. Let's go over and say hello, then we can have a good gathering. Wang Dongsheng said. Li Changsheng naturally had no objections. They arrived at Wang Dongxing's company. As soon as they entered the office, a little girl threw herself into Jin Wenwen's arms and looked at Li Changxing curiously. She asked in a childish voice, "Mom, who is this uncle?" Wang Dongxing touched his daughter's head with a doting look. "This is your uncle, Li." On the sofa in the room, Wang Dongxing's father, Wang Heng, was talking to an old man in a white tang suit. After seeing Li Changxing, Wang Heng was a little surprised. "Isn't this Coach Li?" At that time, Li Changxing had helped the Wang family a lot. Wang Dongxing's father had a deep impression of Li Changxing. He hurried over and shook Li Changxing's hand enthusiastically. The old man in the tang suit also stood up. Wang Heng introduced, "This is Mr. Lu Hong." He then introduced Li Changxing to Lu Hong. "This is Li Changxing, Mr. Li. He is the coach of Dongxing. He is very good at Kung Fu." Lu Hong was a good friend of Wang Dongxing's father. It was said that he was an archaeologist. This time, he was ordered by his superiors to excavate a big tomb. According to Lu Hong, many people had died in the big tomb. It was a little strange. Lu Hong was proficient in Chimanduanjia. His superiors wanted him to go and see what was going on. In addition, people from the Maoshan sect would also go. Li Changxing listened to the conversation between Lu Hong and Wang Dongxing's father. He could not help but show some interest and asked for some details. Lu Hong thought that Li Changxing was just an ordinary person who was curious about these things. Moreover, this was not a secret in the internal department. Lu Hong told the whole story to Li Changxing. It turned out that the big tomb was very old. It could even be traced back to ancient times. However, since it had not been fully excavated, the specific year could not be determined. However, there seemed to be a curse inside. The first group of people who participated in the excavation all died mysteriously. "Brother Lu, since it is so dangerous, you are just an ordinary person. Don't go. Let the professionals from the Maoshan sect go." Wang Heng could not help but feel a little worried. "Since I've received this salary, I can't shrink back." Yi Zichen looked at Yi Zichen. This Lu Hong was a responsible person. "Professor Lu Hong, I don't know when you are leaving. I want to go with you." Li Changxing suddenly interrupted. "Hey, little brother, this is not a joke. Although with my status, I could bring an assistant or an apprentice, but that will really kill me." At that moment, Wang Dongxing, who was next to him, explained, "Uncle Lu, this friend of mine is not ordinary. He is a person with superpowers." Lu Hong's eyes showed some surprise when he heard that. With the revival of spirit qi, cultivators and the like were no longer a secret. However, Lu Hong still shook his head and said, "Even if you're an esper, it's still very dangerous." There were several berserkers in the first batch of people who participated in the excavation, but they still died. You have to think carefully. I have already thought about it. Li Changxing smiled faintly. "Brother Lu, you take him." Wang Heng also said. "Okay." Lu Hong nodded helplessly. "You have to listen to my orders when the time comes. Don't act rashly. Otherwise, if you die there at such a young age, how can I explain it to your parents?" Chapter 948. That night, Wang Dongxing treated both Li Changxing and Lu Hong to dinner. Wang Dongxing's brother, Wang Dongxiu, came along as well. The next day, Li Changxing and Lu Hong left together, heading to the place where the tomb was found. According to Lu Hong, half of a stone tablet was dug out from the tomb. There were mysterious words written on the tablet. It was said that when the tablet was found, everyone saw a figure with disheveled hair squatting on top of the tablet. After that, the people involved in the excavation had nightmares and died one after another within a month. Many people with supernatural powers were sent to explore the place, but nothing was found. The two of them took a plane to the border. According to Lu Hong, the tomb was located deep in the forest at the border. Before they officially went, Lu Hong needed to report to the local department responsible for the excavation of tombs. Outsiders like Li Changxing also needed to register. The two of them went to the relevant department. They obviously knew that Lu Hong was coming and were very respectful to him. As for Li Changxing, Lu Hong said that he was his assistant, and the department did not ask much. At Lu Hong's level, even if he brought his family members, no one would say anything about it, let alone an assistant. It was just that this ancient tomb was very strange. Most people would try to avoid it. For experts like Lu Hong, it was fine. After all, he was famous and had no choice but to go. However, for a young man like Li Changsheng to be willing to go, it was really rare. It was said that many experts resigned right away when they heard that they were going to explore tombs. Even the leader of the department could not help but sigh at how bold young people were these days. He joked that Li Changsheng could compete with that young lady. What young lady? Lu Hong took the information and asked in confusion. She's a young lady from the Maoshan sect. She's about 18 or 19 years old. Most young ladies would be scared to tears just by hearing stories about tombs, but that young lady was not scared at all. It was already dark by the time the registration was done, and they were told to go the next day, but she couldn't wait to go to the tomb in the middle of the night. I heard that the young lady is a big shot in the Maoshan sect. She has a very high status. The leader took a look at Li Changsheng as he said that. You're just an assistant to Specialist Lu Hong, but all the Taoist priests of the Maoshan sect have to listen to her orders. That's quite something. Lu Hong sighed. Young people these days, you don't know the horrors of this tomb. After coming out of the government building, Lu Hong could not help but advise, young man, I think you should go back. You're still young. There's no need to risk your life for curiosity. Li Changsheng shook his head. Uncle Lu, don't worry. Nothing will happen. Lu Hong could only sigh. The two of them entered the depths of the primeval forest in an off-road vehicle provided by the government. Soon, they arrived at the place where the great tomb was discovered. There was a cordon around the perimeter, and inside the cordon, there was a row of tents. Many people were gathered there, studying something. Expert Lu is here. Someone who knew Lu Hong shouted. Immediately, a group of people surrounded him. Among the crowd, Li Changsheng saw that there was indeed a very beautiful woman dressed in white. She seemed to be rather displeased after seeing Lu Hong. She said, I told you guys that no matter how many of these common experts there are, it'd be useless. You just end up losing your lives for nothing. You guys just wouldn't listen. Several old men in white coats around her looked rather displeased as soon as she finished speaking, but none of them said anything. As for Li Changsheng, who was next to Lu Hong, the woman only glanced at him indifferently and did not pay him any attention. She then mumbled as soon as she turned around, two more who have a death wish. All right, after all the research we've done, let's officially begin the exploration. Due to the eerie nature of this great tomb, you guys must listen to my orders. The woman was in her late teens, yet she had already become the leader of the group. Even the other experts like Lu Hong remained silent, which was a tacit acknowledgement of her position as the leader. They all headed for the great tomb, with Li Changsheng and Lu Hong following behind them. However, they were stopped by a man after taking just a few steps. Our young mistress said that you're not allowed in. The man pointed at Li Changsheng and said, Why? Li Changsheng asked in dissatisfaction. That great tomb is filled with danger. Not only will people like you not be of any help to us, you'll even drag us down. So please stop here. What if I say no? Li Changsheng coldly said. Yo, brat, you're quite unconvinced. The woman walked over. If you want to go in with us, you'll have to prove your strength first. How do I prove it? Li Changsheng asked. It's very simple. I don't expect you to have any Dao techniques to help us subdue demons inside, but at the very least, you must have some skills. Otherwise, you won't even have the ability to escape and will only drag us down. As soon as she said that, the man who stopped Li Changsheng clenched his fist. Our young mistress's meaning is very simple. As long as you can last 10 moves against me, it's fine. Hearing the commotion here, the people who were walking in front of them all stopped. Lu Hong was about to speak, but the woman coldly glared at him. I'm only letting you in because you know ancient language. If you want to talk nonsense, you can stay outside with him. Lu Hong immediately stopped talking. Li Changsheng smiled. Sure, isn't it just a fight? Make your move. Not to mention 10 moves, I can even take 100 moves. Brat, you're quite arrogant. The woman couldn't help but laugh in disdain. The other experts around them couldn't help but shake their heads. Although they were also very dissatisfied with the woman's domineering behavior, the subordinates who came with her were also very strong. "Brat, take this." Being looked down upon by Li Changsheng, the man was slightly annoyed. He made up his mind to teach Li Changsheng a lesson. He directly took a step forward and swung his fist at Li Changsheng. This punch brought a strong wind in the air and was quite powerful. However, no matter how strong he was, he had just reached the level of great success in internal force. Such strength was considered a first-class expert in the secular world, but it was not worth mentioning in front of a cultivator. The moment the man's fist came, Li Changsheng sidestepped, then grabbed the man's arm and threw him out. The man was 7 meters tall and weighed 180 pounds, but he was thrown 7 or 8 meters away. He hit a big tree and fell to the ground. After a long time, he staggered to his feet and looked at Li Changsheng with eyes full of shock. At this time, everyone recovered from their shock and looked at Li Changsheng in disbelief. "I wonder if this is considered a pass." Li Changsheng looked at the woman with a faint smile. The woman stared at Li Changsheng's face for a few seconds, then snorted coldly and turned to walk forward. Lu Hong next to Li Changsheng gave a thumbs up. "Young man, I heard from Wang Dongsheng that your kung fu is good, but I didn't expect it to be so good. Thanks for the compliment." Li Changsheng smiled and walked forward side by side with Lu Hong as if nothing had happened. Chapter 949. The tomb was over 300 meters away from where they were staying. Li Changsheng learned along the way that the haughty young woman was called Shi Li, the daughter of the Maoshan sect master. Despite her young age, her powers were nothing to scoff at. She was well versed in the arts of the Maoshan sect, and it was not her first time working with the authorities. The man who was sent flying by Li Changsheng only recovered by then and quickly walked to Shi Li's side. "I'm sorry, young mistress. I've embarrassed you. Xiaolong, you're already at the pinnacle of internal force, yet he was able to throw you out. What level do you think he is at?" Shi Li asked. "He's probably at Grandmaster level. While I may have underestimated him, I still wouldn't have been able to take him on even if I were to go all out. A Grandmaster at such a young age. Interesting." Several men in white robes walked over as they were talking. Even Shi Li showed some respect when she saw those people. She greeted them and asked, "Brothers, how's your exploration going?" It turned out that those people were also disciples of the Maoshan sect. While Shi Li and the other experts were making plans, they were already exploring outside the tomb. "This tomb is very eerie. Even if we were to go in, we'd still be in danger." One of the men who took the lead said, "By the way, Sister Shi Li, we seem to have heard fighting over there. What's going on?" "It's a newcomer. He was able to send Xiaolong flying, so he should be quite capable. Do you need me to stand up for you?" Brothers Will lowered his voice and asked. Shi Li shook her head and said, "Let's get down to business. He's just a grandmaster. While he's powerful, he's not worth our attention." Soon, they arrived at the ancient tomb. There was a huge hole in the ground, probably where a walkway had collapsed. Many stones with mysterious runes carved on them were dug out. If we keep digging, we should be able to reach the entrance of the tomb. However, I'm afraid it'll be dangerous. We need to determine the cause of the mysterious deaths of those people. Facing this ancient tomb, even someone like Shi Li, who had special skills, had to be cautious. Actually, it's just that this ancient tomb has been buried underground for too long, and the stones used to build this ancient tomb contain spiritual energy. After tens of thousands of years, that spiritual energy mutated underground and turned into baleful aura. The person who excavated this place inhaled the baleful aura, and that's why he died mysteriously. As for the other half of the stone tablet, I'm afraid it records some things about the owner of the tomb. However, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't make a conclusion." Li Changsheng suddenly said. The transformation of spiritual qi into baleful qi required special geographical conditions. Therefore, Li Changsheng had a conjecture that he did not mention. It was very likely that there was an Yin vein under this ancient tomb. To be able to build such an immortal cave, He must not have been an ordinary person in the ancient times. What was he planning to do by burying himself in the Een vein, relying on the earth Een meridian to nourish the corpse and live a second life in a different way? Once this ancient tomb is opened, will an old monster that has lived for tens of thousands of years be born? Just as Li Changsheng was lost in thought, Lu Hong, who was next to him, listened thoughtfully. Your theory is quite interesting. Is there any basis for the transformation of spiritual qi into baleful qi? Without waiting for Li Changsheng to speak, Shirley said, according to the records of my Maoshan sect, spiritual qi can be transformed into baleful qi, because in essence, both spiritual qi and baleful qi are a kind of energy between heaven and earth. It's just like how clear water can be turned into dirty water, and dirty water can be turned into clear water. However, the conditions required to transform spiritual qi into baleful qi are quite harsh. Moreover, if this place has the conditions to transform spiritual qi into baleful qi, it's very likely that the ancient tomb has given birth to something extremely ominous. If that kind of thing really exists, then I suggest that we stop excavating this ancient tomb. Because with our strength, once that thing is born, I'm afraid we won't be able to survive. It's okay. In this world, the heavenly Tao suppresses power. He has been buried here for tens of thousands of years, and his strongest strength is only at the finger profound realm. There's no need to be afraid. Li Changsheng said casually. Huh, finger profound realm? Shirley was so angry that she was speechless. Do you think the finger profound realm is cabbage on the roadside? And it's only at the finger profound realm. If he's at the finger profound realm, we're dead for sure. The surrounding experts didn't know what the finger profound realm was and only heard about it in confusion. However, although Shirley was afraid of the existence inside, she still commanded the staff to start digging. Li Changsheng's theory of spiritual qi turning into baleful qi was accepted by Shirley and the others. Since there was no curse, they weren't as careful as they were at the beginning. As for whether or not this ancient tomb had given birth to some kind of creature, it was only a 1,000th probability. This was an ancient tomb, and there were definitely treasures inside. The reason why Shirley and the others went down the mountain was because the officials promised that they could share a portion of the treasures unearthed inside. In this way, as long as they took a small risk, they could obtain very precious treasures inside. It was worth it no matter how they looked at it. With the speed of excavation, they would probably be able to see the real entrance of the ancient tomb in half a day. Li Changsheng sat on a rock at the side. Excavating this kind of work naturally didn't require him to do it personally. There were specialized laborers who came over. Of course, these laborers didn't know about the strangeness of this ancient tomb. Otherwise, even if the officials gave them 10 times the usual salary, they probably wouldn't come. Li Changsheng, when you said that there was a creature inside, what were you referring to? Lu Hong handed Li Changsheng a bottle of water and asked in a low voice. He could also see that Li Changsheng still had some knowledge. At the very least, those arrogant fellows from Mao Mountain didn't refute Li Changsheng surprisingly. It's that after a person dies, their soul has already completely dissipated between heaven and earth. There is no reincarnation in this world, but many people have found another way to live forever and thought of many ways. For example, some people use a powerful formation to suppress themselves so that their essence won't leak out. In this way, after thousands of years, they will break out of the cocoon, which is equivalent to pressing the pause button on their life. It's the same principle that many people envision by freezing a human body for many years and then coming back to life. It's just that technology didn't do it, but they did it with an ancient formation. It's just that this can't be considered longevity. Another way is to find a young life when you're about to die and possess it, transferring your soul into another body. It's just that this method is against the harmony of heaven and earth. Generally, only the devil sect will do it. There is also a very high risk in the process of possession, and the success rate is less than 1%. Even if the possession is successful, if the soul and the new body are not compatible, all kinds of accidents will occur. This method can only be used once. If you want to carry out a second possession, the difficulty will increase by more than 100 times. As far as I know, no one has succeeded in a second possession. There's also something that hasn't been tested yet. It's this kind of person who buries himself in a land of baleful Een after death and relies on baleful Een chi to nourish his body. After countless years, the originally dissipated soul will once again condense in his body and live a second life. It's just that the condensed, new soul will no longer have the memories of the previous life. Many people will store the memories of the previous life in another way. When the new soul is completely born, it will absorb the memories of the previous life. In my opinion, this is actually not called living a second life. The new soul just inherits the memories of the previous life, and it is no longer the previous life. Hearing Li Chongqing's explanation, Lu Hong sighed. Lu Hong sighed. I didn't expect Chongsheng to be so knowledgeable. If you told me this before the recovery of spirit energy, I wouldn't have believed you at all. However, according to what you said, there's no real way to live forever in this world. Of course there is. Chapter 950. When one reaches the pinnacle of cultivation, one will be able to draw spirit chi from the world into one's body, changing the level of one's life. Eventually, one will live as long as the heavens, compete with the sun and the moon, and remain immortal despite countless tribulations. That is the true way of immortality. Do people like that really exist? Lu Hong was overwhelmed by emotions as he listened. Life was but a short few decades. Everyone wanted to live forever and enjoy glory. I guess so. Li Chongsheng sighed. He had lived for tens of thousands of years. Many people would have considered that to be immortality, but he was the only one who knew that it was not true immortality. However, even he himself did not know what true immortality was like. Just as the workers below were digging in full swing, a loud and clear voice suddenly resounded in the sky. They looked up and saw an eagle with a wingspan of 7 or 8 meters circling in the sky. Lu Hong and the other archaeology professors did not think much of it. Strange beasts ran rampant in the depths of the forest, and it was not unusual for a huge eagle to appear. Furthermore, many strange beasts had grown 2 or 3 times their original size after their spirit was awakened. The expressions of the people of the Maoshan sect turned grim right away. Is the god of eagles here? The snow-white eagle descended from the sky as soon as that voice was heard. It flapped its wings like a helicopter, whipping up gusts of wind and causing the vegetation below to sway. There was a middle-aged man sitting on the back of the white eagle. The middle-aged man had long braids, and the decorations on his hair reminded people of those in palace dramas. At that moment, Shirley and the others went up to him respectfully and bowed. Greetings, Lord Bogart, the god of eagles. Bogart leaped from the eagle's back and waved, and the white eagle flapped its wings and took to the sky. He ignored Shirley and the others' greetings. Is that a gerfalcon? Li Chongsheng was unable to help but ask. It was no wonder he had such a question. The gerfalcon was once the totem of the Qing dynasty. It was said that only 1 in 100,000 eagles was born. Emperor Kangxi once praised, saying, "Of the 300 winged insects, there are 60. The most handsome are gerfalcons." If a felon who had committed a crime in the great Qing dynasty could contribute a gerfalcon to the imperial court, they would be spared from death. The gerfalcon that Bogart was riding was even larger than described in the ancient books. Li Chongsheng could tell that the strength of the gerfalcon was not inferior to that of a finger-profound realm cultivator. It was no wonder why that person had no regard for the people of the Maoshan sect. Hearing Li Chongsheng's question, the other party looked at Li Chongsheng with a bit of surprise. I didn't expect you to know what's good for you at such a young age. Li Chongsheng only pursed his lips and said, "The one who's narrowly escaped death should be this guy with a long braid." Lu Hong and the other experts widened their eyes at this moment. Although they knew that cultivators existed during the Spirit Chi revival, berserkers were at most stronger than ordinary martial artists in terms of physical fitness. However, this was the first time they saw someone flying around in the sky like Bogart and Zhang Ling too. One could imagine the impact it had on their hearts. Uncle Zhang, since you're here, we don't have to be afraid of anyone anymore. Shirley went over and hugged Zhang Lingtu's arm coquettishly. That Zhang Lingtu looked to be in his 30s, but he was actually close to 100 years old. He was a lone cultivator without a master. He was a close friend of Shernangguang, the sect master of the Maoshan sect. That was why Shirley kept referring to him as Uncle Zhang. News of the tomb has spread, and I'm afraid many formidable fighters will come. Shirley, I know that you're here to get the treasures inside, but let me give you a piece of advice. You're only allowed to take a look at what's inside the tomb. Don't try to take it for yourself. Even I won't be able to protect you otherwise. Zhang Lingtu spoke very seriously. Shirley's face was filled with shock. She was well aware of Zhang Lingtu's strength, who knew how many-finger profound realm experts had fallen at his hands. To be able to make Zhang Lingtu say such words, one could imagine how many experts have been alarmed by the ancient tomb this time. At that moment, Li Changxing's eyes were looking outside the forest. In his senses, countless powerful auras were rapidly approaching this place. Looks like things are about to get interesting. Li Changxing mumbled to himself. Chapter 9:51. What a powerful aura! Several figures quickly rushed over, each of them emanating an unusual aura. Some of them were comparable to Zhang Lingtu and Bagat. There were over a dozen of them, and each of them emanated a terrifying aura. Some of them emanated ghostly aura, while others emanated sword aura. There were even some who were able to affect the spirit chi around them with a single move. To put it bluntly, half of the top-notch cultivators in the world of cultivators were probably no match for those people. Shirley finally understood why Zhang Lingtu had warned her before. Regardless of how powerful Zhang Lingtu was, there was no way he would be able to protect her when there were so many of them around. The excavators stopped what they were doing at that moment, retreating to the side with fearful looks on their faces. They were just common folk, and they had never seen such a large group of people. There's bound to be some incredible treasure in that tomb. It's just that we don't know how to distribute it with so many people around. Boggett said casually. Everyone wanted to get their hands on whatever was inside, but there was no doubt that if there were to be an uneven distribution with so many of them around, there would be a huge conflict. While everyone was discussing, Li Changsheng had already made his way to the Great Tomb. He had no time to waste with those people. Since the excavators had stopped, he decided to open the tomb himself. Li Changsheng attracted the attention of many as soon as he walked out. Who was that guy? How bold of him to step out at a time like this. Did he have a death wish? Lu Hong's face turned pale from fear. However, he dared not warn Li Changsheng in front of so many people. Sure, Li and the others on the other side smirked coldly, thinking to themselves, "You won't die if you don't have a death wish. There are so many big shots around. You're just a kid. Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Even Zhang Lingtu frowned at that. Bagat, the god of eagles, who had been very displeased with Li Changxing back then, snorted coldly and gripped the hilt of his blade. Surely, is he a disciple of the Maoshan sect as well? Zhang Lingtu could not help but look at Shi Li, who was beside him. Other than the excavators, there were only disciples of the Maoshan sect present. Li Changsheng did not look like an archaeologist. Shirley shook her head and said, "He has nothing to do with the Maoshan sect." "Good." Zhang Lingtu nodded. "Even if you're related, you have to distance yourself from it in time to avoid being implicated." At this moment, Bagat had already unsheathed his scimitar. At this moment, Li Changsheng abruptly waved his palm and slammed it into the crater below. Rumble. His palm energy raged. In an instant, a hole was pierced through the ground. When the dust settled, there was a black fog lingering in the cave. At this moment, Bagat, who had drawn his saber halfway, had a stiff expression. He sensed the terrifying power in Li Chongqing's palm strike, and a look of fear appeared on his face. Thinking about how Li Chongqing had been fearless from the beginning to the end, he began to hesitate whether or not he should make a move. At this moment, Li Chongqing slowly turned around and looked at Boggett. "You wanted to kill me just now." "Sir, I think this is a misunderstanding." Boggett thought about it and felt that it was better not to complicate matters. As he spoke, he put the half-drawn saber back into the scabbard. But Li Chongqing shook his head. "You already wanted to kill me, so you should draw your saber." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Boggett said seriously, "Are you sure?" At the same time, anger rose in his heart. "If I draw my saber, it must drink blood. I'm afraid you'll drink your own blood. You're courting death." This time, Boggett drew his scimitar without hesitation, and it turned into a cold light and slashed at Li Chongqing. But when that sharp saber light descended in front of Li Chongqing easily extended 2 fingers and clamped the blade. At the same time, with a snap of his fingers, that treasured saber made of outer space black iron broke into 2 pieces. One of the pieces was flung by Li Chongqing, and it turned into a cold light and instantly pierced through Boggett's chest. Immediately after, Boggett's body was split into 2 halves from his chest. Such a powerhouse at the peak of the profound finger realm was killed just like that. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Boggett lived in the Changbai Mountains and was worshipped like a god in the Liaodong region. Even the superpowers that appeared after the Spirit Qi revival were not willing to provoke him. Zhang Lingtu was the only one who had clashed with him once. Zhang Lingtu had gained the upper hand and killed one of his gerfalcons, but he had paid a heavy price for it. Such a notorious figure was now easily killed. How could people not feel a chill in their hearts? Chirp! There was a sharp cry of an eagle. When the white gerfalcons saw their master die, they flapped their wings and swooped down from the sky. Their claws seemed to be cast from silver and were full of fierceness. They directly grabbed at Li Chongqing's head. These gerfalcons were at the profound finger realm. At this moment, when they swooped down angrily, the wind they brought with them made people who were not strong enough to sway. However, when it got close to Li Chongqing's head, Li Chongqing reached out his hand and grabbed the eagle's claws, instantly flinging it away. The gerfalcons wanted to fly again, but Li Chongqing raised his hand and pressed down with a giant hand seal. Immediately, the gerfalcons were suppressed and unable to move. Many people showed pity in their eyes. Even Boggett had been killed by Li Chongqing so easily. Although these gerfalcons were strong, they would not be able to escape the fate of death. However, Li Chongqing did not kill it right away. Although Li Chongqing was strong enough to capture many spirit beasts in the universe that were stronger than gerfalcons, he had always wanted to capture one. However, he had been hoping to catch a gerfalcon for a long time, especially one that was so big that it was probably the king of the gerfalcons. "Submit or die," Li Chongqing said coldly. The gerfalcon's eyes were full of hatred. After reaching the profound finger realm, gerfalcons were no less intelligent than humans. Li Chongqing could read the gerfalcon's eyes and could not help but sigh. The giant hand seal dissipated, and the gerfalcons flapped their wings and flew into the sky. After the gerfalcons flew up, they did not run away. Instead, they swooped down again. This time, however, it did not attack Li Chongqing. Instead, it slammed its head into the ground without hesitation. Boom! The ground shook, and dust flew everywhere. Then, the gerfalcon's head was smashed into pieces. It knew that it was no match for Li Chongqing, so it could not avenge its master. Therefore, it chose to kill itself. At this moment, Li Chongqing had lived for countless years and was used to seeing all kinds of things in the world. At this moment, he could not help but be shocked. The people around him were silent. Spirit beasts could not speak, but their emotions were pure. Chapter 952. Li Chongqing was saddened by Hai Dongqing's death for a bit before he calmed himself down and began walking toward the entrance of the tomb. Zhongling too and the other mighty ones began walking as well when Li Chongqing got close. It was apparent that they intended to explore the tomb together. Li Chongqing stopped right there and turned around. This has nothing to do with any of you. Get lost. The mighty ones' faces turned red as soon as he said that. They were all renowned figures in the world of cultivators, and no one had ever dared to speak to them with such an attitude. However, with what happened to Boggett as an example, none of them dared to say a word when faced with Li Chongqing's cold glare. "Aren't you being a little too overbearing?" Shirley whispered at that moment. She was still unable to react to Li Chongqing's sudden change in status. She knew that Li Chongqing had displayed extremely powerful powers, but she still subconsciously thought of Li Chongqing as Lu Hong's personal assistant. As such, she was unable to help herself from speaking up. Zhang Lingtu's expression changed drastically as soon as Shirley spoke. He quickly whispered, "Shirley, apologize to him right now." However, Shirley snorted coldly and said, "Why should I? I'm the young lady of the Mao Shan sect. I'm in no way inferior to him. Why should I apologize to him? Besides, I'm telling the truth." Zhang Lingtu broke out in cold sweat when he heard that. A mighty one like Li Chongqing would have been able to reduce a finger-profound realm being like him to dust with a wave of his hand. Shirley had been spoiled rotten at the Mao Shan sect since she was young. She had no sense of propriety and no sense of propriety. She had a death wish. Li Chongqing lifted his head and glared at Shirley coldly. However, he did not bother arguing with her and continued walking toward the tomb. However, Shirley was infuriated by Li Chongqing's disregard for her. She shouted, "Stop right there! You haven't answered my question yet." Li Chongqing stopped again, but this time he raised his hand and lashed out. A transparent palm print spanned over a dozen meters and landed on Shirley's face. Smack! Shirley's entire body spun in the air for 7 or 8 meters before falling to the ground. "If you dare to say another word, I'll take your life," Li Chongqing said coldly. Shirley covered her cheek and got up from the ground. There was blood at the corner of her mouth, but this time she didn't dare to say anything. When Li Chongqing attacked her, she felt how big the gap between the two of them was. Seeing that Shirley did not dare to say anything more, Li Chongqing coldly snorted and turned to continue walking into the tomb. However, just as he took a step forward, there was a rumbling sound and the ground shook. Then a black smoke surged out from the tomb, and a figure flew out from the tomb. The moment he stood there, the faces of many of the experts present changed. The existence in this tomb has such a terrifying aura. He has definitely reached the Earth celestial stage. Everyone was talking about it. The man who came out of the tomb gave off a strong sense of oppression just by standing there. Although that young man is powerful, the existence in the tomb should have reached the Earth celestial stage. In an era where Earth celestials don't appear, I'm afraid he won't be able to escape death. A middle-aged man with a ghastly aura said. Zhang Lingtu shook his head. If anyone else encountered this thing, they would definitely die. But he is different. If I'm not mistaken, he should be the most powerful man in the world who killed Ji Lushui not long ago, Li Chongqing. When the 3 words Li Chongqing were uttered, many of the experts present trembled. Li Chongqing was too famous. He killed Ji Lushui, who had reached the Earth celestial stage and was invincible. No wonder Boggett couldn't even withstand one attack from him. After knowing Li Chongqing's identity, everyone understood why Boggett died. I guessed right. I didn't expect you to live a second life. Li Chongqing's expression didn't change much. Earth celestials were just ants in his eyes. The man, however, gave a terrifying smile and took a step forward. Suddenly, a pressure as heavy as a mountain whizzed toward him. Everyone who knew Li Chongqing's identity thought he could defeat this monster. But now, their faces darkened again. We forgot one thing. Although this monster's cultivation level isn't high enough, he could have been a top powerhouse in his previous life. He didn't use any true core when he stomped down just now. I'm afraid his body is equivalent to a true celestial. A true celestial? That's a realm that only exists in legends. Those who were optimistic about Li Changsheng started to worry about Li Changsheng. Of course, it wasn't that they were worried about Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng could stop this monster, then everything would be fine. If he couldn't, then everyone here would die. So you're a true celestial. But a true celestial's body combined with an earth celestial's dharma power is equivalent to a half-step true celestial at most. Seeing that it's not easy for you to live a second life, you should leave. Li Changsheng's words made everyone's eyes widen. No one expected Li Changsheng to be so confident. This was a half-step true celestial. An earth celestial was already very impressive. A true celestial was already a myth. Finally, the man who had been silent all this time spoke in a hoarse and ear-piercing voice. A cultivator who isn't even an earth celestial dares to destroy my tomb door. I haven't eaten for tens of thousands of years. Every inch of a finger-profound realm cultivator's flesh has been nourished by spirit chi. It's the most delicious. The man licked his lips. You want to eat me? Oomph. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Li Changsheng snorted coldly, and a powerful aura emanated from his body. It was not weaker than the man's at all. This Li Changsheng was able to kill Ji Lushui, who was an earth celestial. I'm afraid he's also in contact with the Tao integration realm. He might be able to fight this monster. Zhang Lingta said, "It's best if they fight to the death. It's best if both of them are severely injured and dead." Shirley mumbled in a voice that even she could not hear clearly. The surrounding people all looked hopeful. But in the next second, their faces turned ugly again. The ground shook, and another figure flew out from the ancient tomb. It was the same figure as the previous one. His hair was disheveled, and he held a long saber in his hand. "Kid, you're very strong. Even I feel a sense of danger. But you're destined to be my food," the man who had just appeared said in a hoarse voice. The one who had just appeared was on par with him. They were equivalent to two half-step true celestials. But this was not the end. A third, a fourth. In a burst of black fog, a total of 8 people walked out of the tomb. Each of them had the strength of an earth celestial and the body of a true celestial. This time, everyone felt despair. Even Li Changsheng's face was filled with surprise. 8 true celestial powerhouses had lived a second life in the same tomb, and all of them had succeeded. It seems that the Yin vein under the tomb is extraordinary. Chapter 953. Half-Step True Immortal Realm. What did that mean? It meant that every single one of them was almost invincible, yet there were 8 of them. As the 8 of them appeared, the workers, who were originally trembling at the side, were all scared out of their wits. They ran away as fast as they could. They were too weak, and no one would pay them any mind. Lu Hong did not leave. There were actually people living a second life in the ancient tomb, just like how Li Changsheng told him about the way to immortality. His eyes were burning. If he could study one of the 8 of them, it might be a great contribution to human life technology. It had to be said that his idea was almost crazy. Those were half-step true immortals after all. Shirley and the other Mao Shan disciples did not leave. They were unable to fight against such powerful people. However, seeing how calm those people were, they did not seem like bloodthirsty monsters, which meant that they probably would not kill innocent people. The 8 of you were buried in the tomb together to live a second life. However, even if the 8 of you have memories of your past, are you still the same people you used to be? Li Changsheng's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. That was equivalent to copying a piece of paper full of words onto another piece of paper. However, even if the new piece of paper had the contents of the previous piece of paper, it was still a different piece of paper. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the 8 of them, who had been expressionless since they appeared, were obviously emotional. Indeed, they had the memories of their past lives when they were born. However, they were new lives. Were they really from their past lives? It doesn't matter if we are from our past lives or not. You broke into our resting place, and you deserve to die. The man who came out first said coldly. Also, let me correct you. The 8 of us are not buried in the same tomb. There are 10 of us. The 10 of us became the 10 divine generals of the ancient divine dynasty. It is a pity that my other two brothers were unable to live a second life. Which era was the ancient divine dynasty? Li Changsheng was rather surprised. It was obvious that those people seemed to be older than he thought. In the ancient heavenly court, we are the 10 great star generals. I am a greedy wolf. They are the Dubhi, Merak, Fekta, Migres, Alioth, Mizar, and Alkaid. The ravenous wolf destroyer, 7 slaughters, was the southern Dipper constellation, while the Dubhi Merak 7 stars was the northern Dipper constellation. It seems like your status in the ancient heavenly court isn't low. I wonder if anyone else in the ancient heavenly court has lived a second life. Upon hearing Li Changxing's question, Tan Lang shook his head. I don't know either. We don't even know the specifics of the ancient heavenly court. All we have are fragmented memories. Hearing Song Lang's words, Li Changxing immediately understood. Although the method of borrowing the baleful yin vein to live a second life was brilliant, the newly born soul could not bear too many memories. Perhaps the master's previous life only kept the memories that he thought were important. It's not easy for you to live a second life. As long as you promise not to harm any living beings, I can let you go, Li Changsheng said. Tan Lang couldn't help but laugh out loud. Kid, seeing that you're about to become my food, I took pity on you and said a few more words to you. Do you really think that with your little strength, you're a match for us brothers? At the same time, Zhongling Tu and the other finger profound realm experts felt a sense of danger. Obviously, not only did this group of people treat Li Changsheng as food, they also didn't plan to let these finger profound realm experts go. After all, the bodies of finger profound realm experts were also nourished by spirit energy. As for the weak people like Shirley, they were directly ignored by them. Obviously, they didn't even have the right to be food. Many finger profound realm experts were trembling with fear at this moment. They knew that these 8 people were definitely not joking. They used the baleful Een ground to nourish their corpses and lived a second life. Although they had given birth to a soul, they were already different from ordinary people. They were tainted with some corpse characteristics, so it wasn't strange that they liked to eat people. What should we do? Should we fight these 8 people together with Li Changsheng? With our strength, even if we join forces, we won't be able to withstand a slap from them. Looks like we can only count on Li Changsheng. No matter how strong Li Changsheng is, he can't defeat 8 half-step true immortals. Zhongling Tu and the others discussed in a low voice. At this moment, Li Changsheng had already laughed out loud. I thought that it wasn't easy for you to live a second life, so I want to give you a way out. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll kill the 8 of you today. I'll let you know that you have to pay the price for having ideas about me. Haha, you're really arrogant. Tan Lang sneered. Why waste your breath on him? Let's kill him and use him as a sacrifice to our 5 Viscera Temple. Tian Shu licked his lips as a bright red light flashed in his eyes. I can't hold it in anymore. The aura of divine General Tian Shu rose as he raised his hand and attacked Li Changsheng. A terrifying pressure immediately filled the area. Too terrifying. Zhongling Tu and the others quickly retreated to avoid being affected by the shockwaves of the battle. However, they didn't dare to run away because the aura was still locked onto them. If anyone wanted to escape, they would be the first to be attacked. Martial Uncle Zhang, do you think Li Changsheng has a chance to win? Shirley looked at Zhongling Tu quietly. If he loses, we'll definitely die. Of course, you guys should be fine. Zhongling Tu couldn't help but sigh. For the first time in his life, he felt that being weak was a good thing. At this moment, Divine General Tian Shu's attack was already in front of Li Changsheng. The terrifying aura completely surrounded Li Changsheng. However, the moment his opponent attacked, Li Changsheng suddenly took a step forward. Boom! The aura that had been locked onto him was instantly broken. At the same time, an aura spread out from his body like a raging tide. He easily dispelled the Fekta Divine General's attack. How is this possible? Not only Divine General Tian Shu, but the others' faces also turned ugly. Take this. Tan Lang attacked as well. His palm grew to about 100 feet and crushed down on Li Changsheng. Azure Dragon Claws. Although his opponent was only in the Earth Immortal realm, he had the body of a true immortal. Even a cultivator at the Earth Celestial stage would be easily killed by this move. The other divine, General Tian, Shu swung the saber in his hand. The saber light was like a crescent moon and like a wave, flashing with a cold light. Boom! Divine General Tian, Shu attacked again. He punched out, forming a transparent fist force that whistled like a high-speed train. The three divine generals attacked together. Obviously, they could tell that Li Changsheng was the most difficult one to deal with and wanted to finish him off first. The three of them attacked from three directions. It could be said that such an attack was infinitely close to the true immortal realm. Even an Earth immortal like Ji Lushui would die easily. However, their opponent was Li Changsheng. Chapter 954. The three half-step true immortals attacked at the same time, enveloping Li Changsheng. That powerful aura almost instantly pushed down the surrounding trees. This was only the aftermath of the battle. This greedy wolf should be the strongest among the eight. His fist force rolled up countless leaves on the ground like an angry dragon. Sure, Li and the others, who were standing more than 20 meters away, spat out blood under this terrifying force. Their faces were full of shock. Is this the power of a true immortal? We are known as the top powerhouses on Earth, but compared to such power, we are not even worth mentioning. Sword Immortal Zhongling too had always been known for his powerful attacks. He was also very arrogant, but at this moment, he was deeply affected. The other powerhouses also looked terrible. No matter how much they hated Li Changsheng before, they were all silently praying that Li Changsheng would win. Because if Li Changsheng lost, the ones who would have to face such attacks would be them. Tianlang let out a howl. They were the divine generals of the ancient divine dynasty. Ever since their new divine consciousness was born, they had been sleeping in this tomb for tens of thousands of years. Although they now had human thoughts, they were still corpses. The flesh and blood filled with spirit qi was extremely attractive to them. Li Changsheng will not be able to escape from such an attack. The Finger Profound Realm powerhouses secretly channeled their true qi, ready to escape at any time. However, no one was sure if they could successfully escape. At this moment, Li Changsheng finally made his move. He raised his hand and took out the cold light sword. With a slash, the silver sword light was like lightning, slashing on the big hand first. Whoosh! It directly cut the big hand in half and crushed it. At the same time, he used his fist to meet divine General Tianshu's big blade. When the sharp blade light hit the fist, it actually made a sound of metal clashing. Then, Li Changsheng's fist directly shattered. In the end, he turned a blind eye to Tianlang's fist and let it hit his body. Boom! The ground trembled, but Li Changsheng's body did not move at all under the force of the fist. The attacks of the three powerhouses were easily broken by Li Changsheng. At this moment, everyone's face was filled with shock. Even divine General Tianlang, who was full of confidence at the beginning, had a serious expression. Whoosh! Sky Pivot slashed out again. This time, the blade light was dozens of feet long, and it sounded like thunder in the void. You don't know what's good for you. Faced with such an attack, Li Changsheng once again threw out a punch to meet the blade aura. Like a waterfall crashing into a mountain rock, it exploded with a bang. The moment the energy blade exploded, a large hand pierced through the layers of energy and landed on the chest of the Fekta God Descent. In the next second, the divine General Tianshu's body was sent flying. Pearls! Li Changsheng at this moment, everyone was shocked. Li Changsheng stood motionless at his original spot, casually breaking through their attacks, and even injuring divine General Tianshu. Could it be that Li Changsheng had also stepped into the true immortal stage? Otherwise, how could he have so casually broken through their attacks? The Finger Profound State overlords, who were ready to run at any time, were excited at this moment. The divine generals, who thought they had the situation under control, became serious. Divine General Tian Shu, especially, was sent flying by Li Changsheng. There were many cracks on his body, but because their body structure was different from normal people, there was no blood. Instead, there was a black substance with a foul smell. I didn't expect an expert like you to be born when the spirit qi of heaven and earth has dried up, Tan Lang said with a hoarse voice. We are willing to listen to you and not hurt the innocent. How about we stop now? Li Changsheng only snickered. I tried to persuade you out of kindness, but you didn't listen. Now that you have seen my strength, you want to stop fighting? How can there be such a good thing? Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his palm, and a mighty sword was emitted from his body. A sword domain of 10 meters appeared and condensed continuously. Spiritual qi from all directions converged into the sword light, and the sound of a sword humming could be heard. Li Changsheng stood in the sword realm like a god. Let's attack together. Tan Lang felt the power of the sword light and said loudly. The 8 half-step perfected immortals surged. Their combined strength was no less than the 3 perfected immortals of the Tiandu star field. Li Changsheng didn't use the Tiandu sword because he wanted to see if he could kill these people without relying on the power of the Dharma artifact. The sword realm was still condensing, and the power was getting stronger, as if it was endless. Tan Lang and the others couldn't help but attack. Tan Lang was the first to rush over. His body turned into a phantom in the air, and his fist became the size of a mountain, smashing down on Li Changsheng. When the fist fell, the void began to collapse. The turbulent energy was like a river that broke the dam, roaring down. Such power definitely had the power to collapse mountains and crack the earth. 7-kill fist. This was a fist technique that Tan Lang and his 2 brothers, Pajuan and 7-kill, created together. It was famous in ancient times. Boom! Tian Shu, who was injured by Li Changsheng, also swung his saber light. This time, the saber light became 1,000 feet long. It was obvious that he was going all out. Before it fell, the turbulent saber qi shattered the space. The other 6 people also used their own methods. Some people's palms were like white clouds. They were light, but contained endless mysteries. Some people's sword light was dazzling like silver snakes dancing with hidden killing intent. 8 figures surrounded Li Changsheng with 8 different attacking methods. The people present couldn't see Li Changsheng's figure at all. They were completely drowned by the turbulent energy. These people were very smart. As soon as they saw that Li Changsheng was not easy to deal with, they each attacked with all their might. In the face of this destructive attack, Li Changsheng's hand didn't move at all. Walala! The sword light raged. It surrounded Li Changsheng. Bang! 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 Tan Lang's fist was the first to fall. It was as if Mars had crashed into Earth. However, when the terrifying fist was 3 feet away from Li Changsheng, it couldn't go any further. Instead, it was crushed by the surging sword qi. Tian Shu's saber light was destroyed directly. A few cracks appeared on the saber. The remaining people's attacks came one after another. Unfortunately, they couldn't shake Li Changsheng's sword realm. Li Changsheng stood in the sword realm like a sword immortal. He was invulnerable. When he blocked the enemy's attack, he didn't forget to slash out his sword light. It left a shocking wound on Divine General Fecta's chest. Fecta immediately took a few steps back. His eyes were filled with shock. When the surrounding people saw this, they all widened their eyes in shock. Li Changsheng was in an invincible position when facing the combined attacks of 8 experts who were half a step to the finger profound realm. He was also unharmed. Such strength was simply terrifying to the extreme. What realm is he at? Zhang Lingtu and the others were all guessing. They finally understood why Li Changsheng looked at them with disdain. It turned out that the gap between them and Li Changsheng was so huge. It was like heaven and earth. Chapter 955. What a pity! Li Changsheng sighed. After all, he hadn't reached the Earth's celestial stage and couldn't control the spiritual qi of heaven and earth on a large scale. Otherwise, he could kill 8 half-step genuine immortals with his sword principle. Without reaching the Earth's celestial stage, it was difficult to break through the limitations of the body. Fekta, who had been sent flying by Li Changsheng, looked at Li Changsheng with fear in his eyes. According to their senses, Li Changsheng hadn't broken through to the Earth celestial stage. Even though the 8 of them joined forces, one of them was still injured by Li Changsheng. If it was a one-on-one battle, none of them would be able to withstand a single strike from Li Changsheng. There is such a person in the Age of Doom. What should we do? They all looked at Tanlang. In ancient times, Tanlang had a higher status than the 7 Big Dipper brothers. Now, they followed Tanlang's lead. Let's try again. This time, we can definitely kill him. Tanlang shouted. After saying that, the 7 brothers, Dubhe, Fekta, and Migres, stood in a special position and merged their auras into one, forming a formation. The ancient divine dynasty could combine the power of tens of thousands of soldiers and horses with a combined attack formation. That was why they could conquer the ancient times and dominate the world. When the 7 of them formed the formation, their strength soared more than 10 times. Their strength was equivalent to that of 5-finger profound realm experts. This formation is quite unique, Yi Fuqian murmured. Li Changsheng hesitated for a moment and didn't use the Tiandu sword. These people could be his whetstones. Although Li Changsheng treated them as whetstones, he didn't underestimate them at all. After all, their strength was equivalent to that of 5-finger profound realm experts, which was extraordinary. Li Changsheng didn't rush to attack. Instead, he waited for their aura to reach its peak before he took out the cold light sword and slashed. Whoosh! This sword wasn't as bright as before. Instead, it was somewhat ordinary. The sword chi whizzed out. Li Changsheng seemed to have merged with the whole world and returned to his original state. Eat my blade. The Tianshu divine general slashed out with his saber. Saber light surged and collided with Li Changsheng's cold light sword, causing Li Changsheng's cold light sword to ripple. As for Li Changsheng himself, he had to take 3 steps back. On the other side, the 7 people who formed the formation took a step back almost at the same time. It looked like Li Changsheng was at a disadvantage, but the 7 people were all shocked. One must know that the combined strength of the 7 of them was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1 is equal to. Once such a formation was set up, even in ancient times, there were very few people who could withstand it. Li Changsheng had forced them to retreat by himself. This was already extremely terrifying. Where did this young man come from? How can he have such terrifying combat strength? Just as they were bewildered, Li Changsheng once again slashed out with his sword. Rumble, rumble. This time, it was different from before. The sword light soared into the sky and then slashed down with a rumble. Under the sword light, the formation set up by the 7 people was constantly being destroyed. The 7 people's legs sank into the ground at the same time. Their faces were filled with shock. Under this aura, they were completely suppressed and could not gain the upper hand. What terrifying power! Zhongling too and the others were completely dumbfounded. Let me give you a hand. Tanlang joined the 7 people and did not hesitate to burn his secret technique. Only then did he barely manage to extinguish Li Changsheng's sword light. Just as they heaved a sigh of relief, boom! The sword light in Li Changsheng's hand condensed again, and it was even more spectacular than before. The killing intent on the sword light was constantly being emitted. The terrifying aura was enough to split a planet in half. Li Changsheng bit his finger and wrote a series of talismans on the cold light sword. When he infused his blood into the cold light sword, the sword light instantly doubled in size and slashed down. Dodge! Zhongling too and the others turned pale with fright as they ran for their lives. Under the sword light, the formation was instantly destroyed. The 7 people who set up the formation were sent flying and exploded into clouds of black mist in the sky. Tanlang was only left with half of his body. However, he was still alive and his eyes were filled with terror. At this moment, Li Changsheng's body swayed slightly. After all, he was facing 5-finger profound realm cultivators. However, he smiled. Even without the Tian-Du sword, he could fight against 5 true immortals. With the Tian-Du sword, even golden immortals would not be a problem. Kid, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. However, one day, I'll get back at you. Tan Lang took a step forward and turned into a ray of black light. He chose to escape. The Yin vein under the ancient tomb was very beneficial to their cultivation. Therefore, in the past 10,000 years, even after the birth of their divine souls, they still endured the loneliness and stayed here in order to constantly strengthen themselves. If not for Li Changsheng being so terrifying, he would not have left this place. However, would he be able to escape? Li Changsheng stomped his foot and flew into the air. Then, he threw a punch forward. Bang! The black light that was flying away was suddenly hit by the punch. Then, it screamed and exploded on the spot. At this point, the 8 monsters that were born from the ancient tomb had all fallen in the hands of Li Changsheng. The group of finger-profound realm cultivators in the distance were all stunned. 8 half-step true immortals. How terrifying was that? Li Changsheng's title of invincible was well-deserved. While Li Changsheng was fighting the 8-finger profound realm cultivators, a few hundred miles away, a few people in military uniforms were staring at a big screen. The big screen accurately recorded the entire process of the battle. Now that the spirit Qi had recovered, the government had established the Berserker Group and the mysterious Dragon Group to monitor the world. Since Zhang Lingtu and the others had gathered in the forest, the members of the Dragon Group had started using high-tech methods to monitor the area. So this is Li Changsheng. What terrifying strength! The middle-aged man said with a solemn expression. Fortunately, Chen Shuiming roped him in and made him the chief instructor of the Berserker Group. Otherwise, with such a dangerous person around, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to sleep well. Chen Shuiming was in charge of the Berserker Group, while the middle-aged man was in charge of the Dragon Group. He was known as the Dragon General and was a well-known big shot in the government. Send this video to the higher-ups immediately. This Li Changsheng must be roped in. I heard that he left behind a Taoist orthodoxy called the Verdant Sect. We can also reach an agreement with the Verdant Sect. Those Taoist sects are not good people. But this Li Changsheng, judging from his behavior, seems like a patriot. With the Dragon General's command, the relationship between the Verdant Sect and the government was constantly being pulled closer. At the same time, the news of Li Changsheng killing 8 half-step true immortals spread through the Dragon Group and spread to the various cultivation sections. This cannot be helped. Many of the members of the Dragon Group were disciples from various cultivation sections. Although these people were loyal to the Dragon General, they also had deep feelings for their sections. With such a terrifying person like Li Changsheng, they naturally had to remind their sections. Just as the world was shocked by Li Changsheng's terrifying combat strength, Li Changsheng had already stepped into the tomb. He was secretly anticipating what kind of surprise the E Meridian below would give him. Chapter 956. Just as Li Changsheng entered the tomb, a sense of danger rose in his heart. A sharp gust of wind blew, and a black thing attacked his head. He hurriedly dodged to the side and saw a halberd smashing into the stone wall beside him. Then, Li Changsheng saw a pair of cold eyes staring at him. It was a general dressed in black armor. He pulled out the halberd and rushed towards Li Changsheng. Could it be that other than those 8 monsters, there are others who have lived a second life? That greed is lying to me. As Li Changsheng's thoughts raced, he quickly retreated. He discovered that the aura of this black-armored general was even stronger than those 8 people. He was probably about to break through to the celestial immortal realm in his previous life. However, he didn't seem to have any thoughts, only instinct. At the same time, Li Changsheng understood that greed said that a total of 10 people entered the tomb, and in the end, only 8 of them successfully lived to the next life. This should be one of Greed's 2 brothers, defeating armies or Qi Sha. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The halberd in his hands had the power to split mountains, but after confirming that he didn't have a soul, Li Changsheng no longer took him seriously. because the other party's move was completely instinctive. Just as Li Changshen was about to take out the cold light sword to kill him, he suddenly let out a cry of surprise. This was because he discovered that the other party seemed to be waving the halberd in a set of martial skills. This set of basic movements, if used with quintessential essence, the power would be hundreds of times greater. The sense of danger just now came from this set of martial skills, so Li Changshen was not in a hurry to make a move on him. He just kept dodging. Seeing the other party demonstrate this set of martial skills over and over again, he finally familiarized himself with it and suddenly punched out. It smashed onto the halberd, and the halberd was directly sent flying. The black-armored general was also forced back a few steps by Li Changshen's punch. Ayo! He let out an angry sound. Although he did not successfully give birth to a divine sense, he had become another kind of existence. He opened his mouth and tried to bite Li Changshen. How disgusting! Li Changshen lifted his leg and sent him flying with a kick. Then he pulled out the sky piercer that was stuck in the stone wall and hacked at his body. Crack! The black-armored general was split into two halves, and a foul stench wafted out. After killing the black-armored general, Li Changshen continued forward with his halberd. Since the other party did not live a second life and became such a strange existence, it was very likely that the other person had also become such an existence. Sure enough, after taking a few steps, a sword light attacked Li Changshen. This time around, Li Changshen was prepared. He slashed out with his halberd, chopping off one of his opponent's arms. The monster did not feel any pain despite having its arm broken. It continued to charge at Li Changshen with its claws and fangs bared. Li Changshen brandished his sky piercer and chopped him into two halves. Originally, Li Changshen wanted to pick up the sword, but he discovered that the sword had actually been smashed in half by him. This caused Li Changshen to be somewhat surprised in his heart. They were both divine generals of the ancient divine dynasty. The level of their weapons should be about the same, but the sky piercer was much stronger than the sword. What's going on? At this time, Li Changshen suddenly realized that with his current physical body, he could even destroy a genuine immortal. His strength could be said to be incomparably powerful. At this moment, holding the sky piercer, he still felt a little heavy. How many pounds does it weigh? Only then did Li Changshen carefully size up the sky piercer. However, he discovered that this sky piercer didn't look like a magic tool. Instead, it looked like an ordinary weapon. Other than its weight, it didn't have any other functions. This thing was also strange, but it was quite convenient to use. Since Li Changshen could not figure out the mystery of this sky piercer, he did not waste his time and continued to walk inside with the sky piercer. After passing through a long tunnel, he came to a huge tomb. There were 10 stone coffins in the tomb. The lids of the stone coffins were all open. Obviously, they were the coffins of the 10 divine generals. Li Changshen went to take a look inside the stone coffins. There was nothing inside. The whole tomb was empty and a little damp. That's not right. There should be a meridian under this tomb. Otherwise, how could the 8 of them live to the next life? But I can't feel any qi. Li Changshen frowned. He looked around and found that the tomb was like a big stone. It was directly hollowed out, and there was not even crack. It was because of this structure that the qi was isolated from the invasion. What's going on? Just as he was puzzled, he suddenly saw 10 stone coffins. These 10 stone coffins were the only things in this tomb that could move. Thinking of this, he immediately raised the sky piercer and directly slashed it, smashing one of the stone coffins into pieces. The moment the stone coffin shattered, a hole with a diameter of 1 meter was revealed. At the same time, rolling black qi filled the air. So that's how it is. Li Changshen immediately understood. The 10 divine generals found the meridian below. In order to prevent the qi from leaking out, they found a huge stone to block the entrance of the earth meridian. Then, they hollowed out the stone and turned it into a tomb. They dug a hole in each stone coffin. When they lay in the stone coffins, the qi inside would invade their bodies little by little through the stone coffins. Otherwise, if they let all the qi enter, Their bodies would be completely corroded by the yin qi before a new divine consciousness was born in their bodies. Li Changsheng hurriedly piled up the other 9 stone coffins at the entrance and set up a formation to seal the entrance. Otherwise, if the yin qi was allowed to spread out, it would corrode everything within 100 miles and turn it into a land of extinction. When the entrance was completely sealed, Li Changsheng stood there quietly, letting the yin qi become stronger and stronger and corrode his body. If there was anyone in this world who was not afraid of the yin qi, Li Changsheng was definitely one of them. The indestructible fiend god body could refine the yin qi into the body. When the wisps of yin qi entered his skin, Li Changsheng felt a slight tingling sensation coming from all the pores on his body. The yin qi is still not strong enough. After a long time, Li Changsheng strode to the entrance of a cave and jumped down without hesitation. The moment he jumped down, countless sword lights surged toward him. It was a formation. The sword lights were so sharp that even Li Changsheng felt a strong sense of danger. He took out the cold light sword, which turned into sword lights. Countless sword lights slashed on his sword domain. The sword domain that the 8 half-step true immortals were unable to break through actually lasted for less than a few seconds before it shattered with a loud bang. What a terrifying sword formation. It's definitely not something that those people can set up, even if they are true immortals. Li Changsheng thought. This time, he did not hesitate to take out the Tian-Du sword, which turned into a sword curtain and blocked the surging sword lights. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.